Chapter 966. In the Spirit Void Starfield, in the demon-slaying battle, the kings and marquises worked together to resist the demon-slaying might with their swords. The demon lord blocked the two swords with his palms. His demonic chi surged violently, but he was injured first. Outside the battle, in front of Reverend Yu, the Chaos Moon God Bao fell. The most sacred Bao attracted the moonlight of the 9 heavens. After countless years, it reappeared in the ancient legends. The coiling dragon appeared, and its roar resounded through the starry sky. The power of destroying heaven and earth was unleashed. The divine arrow was shot out, and the dragon-shaped arrow light destroyed everything in its path. The dark and deep space ravine extended for thousands of miles. It was a shocking scene. Before the demon lord could react, the divine arrow was already there. It pierced through the demon armor, and went straight into the demon lord's heart. With a groan, the divine arrow disappeared after it entered the demon lord's heart. The demon-slaying demon lord's aura kept leaking out from his body. His face was twisted in pain. Seeing that the demon-slaying battle was a success, Ningchen suppressed his injuries and raised his cultivation to the peak. The giant demon phoenix's shadow appeared in the human world. With the support of his 2 original forms, his cultivation increased by several times. Sword technique. Taiyi's sword returned to its original state. There was only one sword in the world. Knowing destiny, Marquis. One sword passed through the gate of heaven, and the 9 heavens changed. He held the sword for his whole life, and after hundreds of years of life and death, he gained the name of sword fanaticism. In the chaotic sword wave, a Taichu origin sword appeared. The unprecedented sword pressure swept through the 9 heavens and shook the underworld. In the 1,000-mile battlefield, swords left their master's hands and rushed to the 9 heavens, worshipping the sword fanaticism. In the battle, the demon lord's expression changed slightly. He stabilized his body and activated his true yuan. Thousands of demonic waves rushed to the sky. In an instant, above the 9 heavens, a giant demon eye appeared. Under the dim light, it wanted to kill the demon lord's soul. The demon lord was invincible, and the sword fanaticism was unparalleled. The Taichu origin sword cut through the demonic clouds and landed on the demon lord's body. Whoosh! An ear-piercing sound was heard. The sword chi cut the demon lord's body. Blood spurted out, adding another injury. With a groan, the demon lord took a few steps back. On his chest, a deep sword wound appeared. The sword chi was demon lord's heart meridians. After suffering a series of heavy injuries, the demon master's demonic chi was in a mess. Demon Master. Outside the battle, the cultivators of the demon palace were shocked. No one had expected the demon lord to be so severely injured. The Ji family's 4 ancestors joined forces and channeled their primordial chi together, blocking the Devil Palace's experts. In the Demon Slayer War, the demon lord was severely injured, and it was difficult for him to summon his demonic vitality. The Queen of Chi calmed herself down and summoned the phantom of the flying serpent into her body. In an instant, demonic patterns appeared on the beautiful face of the Queen of Baki. She was filled with the origin of vicious beasts, and the murderous intent in her eyes multiplied. He took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of him. Phoenix cries resounded, breaking through the surging demonic chi and directly piercing through the demonized cultivator's heart. You guys! Just when everyone thought that the devil-slaying art had succeeded, a voice filled with suppressed anger rang out. In the void, around the devil lord, black devil chi spread out. In the blink of an eye, the black devil chi returned to the devil lord's body and entered his chest. An incomprehensible scene occurred. The wound on the demon's chest caused by the coiling dragon arrow, and the sword of origin actually healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, not a single scar was left. Before she could regain her senses, a heavy palm landed on her body. With a loud bang, Lin Yuzhen spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Your Highness! Ning Chen's expression changed. His figure flashed and caught the severely injured queen. Knowing destiny, retreat quickly. Lin Yuzhen spat out a mouthful of blood and tried her best to remind them. Immediately, her consciousness sank and she fainted. It's too late to leave. The Devil Lord walked out from the turbulent demonic chi, and looked at the two people in front of him. He raised his right hand and the starry sky suddenly darkened. An indescribable and terrifying pressure spread out. The brilliance of heaven and earth seemed to be stripped away, and not a trace of brilliance could be seen. Barren heaven, forbidden technique, twilight of the gods. In the darkness, a cold and majestic voice rang out. After a short silence, the entire space shook. Those who entered had their souls disintegrated and were devoured by the forbidden god domain. Before they could even make a sound, the souls of thousands of spirit void stage experts on the battlefield were swallowed up, and their bodies exploded. The splattering blood added a touch of sadness to the cold forbidden god domain. Inside the domain, Ningchen opened the yin-yang formation again. Feeling his body being devoured, his expression was grave. Ningchen didn't have time to send Queen Qi out. He shouted softly and a phoenix phantom appeared, sending the unconscious woman into it. Maha's sect's ninth disciple, Queen Qi Linyuzhen. To be able to force me to this point, I am willing to call you the strongest challengers. However, no matter how satisfying this battle is, it's time to end it. In the darkness, the Devil Lord stepped forward. His aura was incomparably terrifying. Within the forbidden god domain, he was an existence that surpassed the gods. He could control everything, including everyone's life and death. Ning Chen's plain clothes had been soaked in blood countless times. He held his sword in his hand, his expression never showing any fear. How many times in his life could he fight to his heart's content? To stop the Devil Palace, any sacrifice was worth it, including himself. Looking into the distance, a smile flashed across his face. Ning Chen waved his hand and summoned the green cauldron. He raised his hand to trap an immortal. At this moment, the holy moonlight shone down, dispersing the darkness. Mr. Ning. Baiwe appeared in the moonlight and raised his hand to stop the former. He said softly, "We have lost this battle. You still have a long road ahead of you. You can't sacrifice yourself here." As soon as he finished speaking, Baiwe attacked. With a bang, he sent the man behind him flying. The moonlight opened a path, and its divine might was shocking. Ning Chen, who was sent out of the battle, narrowed his eyes. Shock flashed across his face. In the darkness ahead, a power that surpassed the mortal realm erupted. It was dazzling and shocked the starry sky. Yueshen, seeing the increasingly terrifying aura of the woman in front of him, the Devil Lord's eyes flashed. "Devil Lord, your footsteps will eventually be stopped by that young man. In this mortal realm, he is the one closest to the gods." Yueshen spoke softly in the holy aura. "How can a mere third realm cultivator compete with me? Yueshen, it seems that you are just SOSO after coming to the mortal realm. You can't even see the truth clearly," the Devil Lord sneered. "The truth is only your shallow understanding. That young man has the strongest heart in the world. He will never give in. You will never be able to reach him." As soon as he finished speaking, a divine moon appeared in the sky. Yueshen raised her hand to the sky. In a shocking vision, the divine moon fell to the mortal realm and drowned the entire battlefield. In the next moment, in an earth-shattering tremor, an extremely terrifying impact erupted. The entire battlefield was instantly scattered. Thousands of figures were sent flying. No one could withstand the terrifying aftershock. Outside the battlefield, the experts of the Devil Palace, the 4 ancestors of the Ji clan, and dozens of true realm cultivators were also affected by the aftershock. They were forced to retreat a few hundred feet, and barely managed to stabilize themselves. "Devil Lord." The 3 sects' expressions changed. They immediately rushed to the battlefield to look for the Devil Lord. In the aftershock, a burly and domineering figure appeared. The armor on his body was shattered, and he was covered in blood. He was in a sorry state. On the opposite side, the moonlight dissipated. Baiwa looked back and looked into the distance. A trace of regret flashed across his eyes. "Mr. Ning, from now on, please take care of the Baiwa clan." As soon as he finished speaking, Baiwa's figure disappeared from the world. In the Baiwa ancient ground, on the altar, the moon goddess statue shone brightly and dimmed. In front of the altar, thousands of Baiwa clan members sensed something. They bowed down with sorrowful expressions as they bid farewell to the high priest. In the spirit void realm, outside the battlefield, a white-clothed figure was sent flying. Her body was covered in blood, and it was extremely eye-catching. At this moment, the white-clothed figure leaped out, carrying the heavily injured Knowing Destiny Realm cultivator away. Retreat. Amidst the chaos, Ji Yuechu ordered solemnly. Under his command, the entire army retreated. The 4 ancestors of the Ji clan attacked at the same time, opening up a path for the army to retreat. Saint Priest. On the battlefield, Jun Wentian looked at the Saint Priest of the Devil Palace and asked for orders. No need to chase, Jie Tiant said coldly as he glanced at the army that had been battered into a mess by the aftermath of the battle. In the void, the blue-clothed demonic butterfly stood quietly. Although she had just gone through a great battle, her expression was still calm and indifferent. Saint Priest, retreat. In the distance, the Devil Lord said solemnly. Suppressing the heavy injuries that could erupt at any time, he disappeared. Jun Wentian, retreat. Jie Tiant said indifferently. He turned around and left the battlefield. After the 2 decision-makers of the Devil Palace left, Jun Wentian looked at the generals of the Devil Palace and said solemnly, retreat. The Devil Palace retreated temporarily. After a fierce battle, both sides suffered heavy casualties, and there was no clear winner. In the Spirit Void Realm's White Emperor City, experts returned one after another. Several Yama Kings of Hell appeared, escorting the heavily injured Knowing Destiny Realm cultivators and King Qi to the Ji clan. Cheng Xue, I'll leave Knowing Destiny to you. I'll take care of King Qi, Nu Chang said, and went behind the unconscious King Qi. She gathered her essence and channeled it into his body. At the side, Mu Qingxue channeled his essence into Knowing Destiny's body to help him heal. Not far away, under the Yama mask, Xia Ziyi, Yishuan Miao, Luoshan, and the others stood guard, preventing any possible danger. The Ji clan's sacred master and the 4th ancestor looked ahead, their eyes solemn. No one thought that this battle would be so fierce. They were close to succeeding in slaying the Devil Lord, but in the end they failed. Heavenly Ancestor. The Devil Lord's heart meridians were clearly destroyed. How could he immediately recover and become even stronger? Ji Yuechu asked with a serious expression. I don't know the specifics. The Ji clan's heavenly ancestor shook his head and said solemnly, but it's impossible for the Devil Lord to not be affected. At the last moment, although the Devil Lord's aura didn't weaken, it was obviously not as stable as before. Heavenly Ancestor, you mean that the Devil Lord is only forcefully holding on, and is actually an arrow at the end of its flight? Ji Yuechu said solemnly. That should be the case, but this is just my guess. After all, we haven't personally participated in the battle. The specifics will only be known when King Qi and Mr. Ning wake up. The Ji clan's heavenly ancestor replied. Ugh. In the Holy Palace, a painful groan sounded. The heavily injured king and marquis were filled with demonic energy, and their auras crazily surged. Chapter 967. In the Ji family's sacred palace, Marquis was severely injured. Nu Chang and Mu Qingxue each took care of one person, and tried their best to heal the other 2. The demonic aura hidden in their bodies burst out crazily and chaotically, constantly eating away at their vitality. Not good. Nu Chang and Mu Qingxue's expressions changed slightly. They raised their cultivation technique again, trying to suppress the demonic aura. However, the demonic aura that surpassed the limits of the mortal realm pushed the 2 away and swallowed the 2. Arg! A painful groan sounded. Lin Yuzhen's blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth, dyeing her royal robe red. 9 underworlds devour the heavens. Nu Chang didn't dare to hesitate. The demonic scripture martial art appeared again, and she raised her palm to devour the demonic aura around the 2. The demonic scripture shook the demonic aura of the 4th realm. After a while, Nu Chang's body shook, and her mouth turned red. Female Supreme, stop. Leave the rest to me. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded from the surging demonic aura. A white-clothed figure with his eyes closed stood up. His white hair danced in the wind, and his aura rose. It was strong, heavy, and unfathomable. This is... Not far away, Mu Qingxue's eyes flashed. This should be the divine tree's origin that he mentioned. Now that his body was reborn with the undying divine tree's origin as the foundation, He should have some of the undying divine tree's characteristics. His powerful vitality was one of them. I'll leave this power to you. Ningchen opened his eyes and said, "Thank you, Master." At this moment, thousands of demonic figures appeared from the demonic aura. The power of thousands of demonic aura swallowed the demonic aura around the two. Ningchen walked behind Prince Qi and activated the life scroll, continuously injecting it into the latter's body. After an hour, Ningchen stopped. He looked at the dissipating demonic aura and said calmly, "Come back." Yes. The thousands of demonic figures flashed and entered the soul-suppressing banner. Ningchen walked out and looked at the experts waiting in the hall. He said, "Sorry for making everyone worry." The underworld palace's Yama kings nodded and didn't say anything. Now that they were in the Ji family, they couldn't act too familiar with destiny. Mr. Ning was able to recover so quickly after suffering such heavy injuries. It's amazing. Not far away, the Ji family's sacred master walked forward and sighed. "Not completely healed," Ningchen said calmly. "I've only temporarily suppressed my injuries." "Holy Master, I haven't had the time to ask, how are the losses of the allied forces?" "We've lost 30% of our true realm forces, and half of our forces below the true realm." Ji Yuechu's expression turned serious as he said, "However, Devil Palace also suffered heavy losses and did not gain any advantage." When Ningchen heard this, he lightly nodded and said, "That's good. The Saint Lord needs to reorganize the army as soon as possible. Everyone knows of the demonic palace's ambitions. They will definitely counterattack again." "I understand." Ji Yuechu nodded. He looked at the young man in front of him and said, "Mr. Ning personally fought with the Demon Master, so you should be most aware of the battle situation. How are the Demon Master's injuries?" Ningchen was silent for a moment before he said, "At the very least, his injuries won't be any lighter than mine and His Highness Prince Qi's." As expected, Ji Yuechu revealed a look of understanding. The Devil Lord's strength was too astonishing. If he was in his peak state, he was truly not someone any of them could match. "Saint Lord, since Mr. Ning has woken up, we will not stay any longer. We will take our leave first." Under the Yama mask, Goddess Luotian stepped forward and bowed. She immediately looked at the people around her, nodded, and turned to walk out of the hall. The Yama kings understood tacitly, and did not stay any longer. They stepped forward and followed. "Saint Lord, we still have important matters to attend to, so we will take our leave first." Goddess Luotian said calmly and left with Wu Qingying beside her. After the Yama kings of the underworld left, the 4 kings of Beiki also stepped forward and politely bid farewell. Then they took Prince Qi, who had yet to wake up, and left the Ji family's holy palace. After everyone left, Ningchen collected his thoughts and looked at the 4 ancestors of the Ji family behind the Saint Lord of the Ji family. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Junior Ningchen greets the 4 seniors." Black Ancestor and Yellow nodded slightly. They had already dealt with this person before, but they did not expect Mr. Ning's strength to be so astonishing. He had even surpassed old monsters like them who had half their lives in the grave. Black Ancestor and Yellow Ancestor looked at the young man in front of them. They had only heard of him, but after the previous battle, he had given them quite a shock. Even they could not fight the Demon Lord head-on. Yet this person could do it. Even if it was only for a short time, it gave them hope. Heroes come from the youth. This saying is indeed true. "Mr. Ning, you have worked hard," the Ji family's heavenly ancestor said. "Senior, you flatter me." Ningchen replied softly, "Now that the Demon Lord is seriously injured, it is time for us to counterattack. This is a rare opportunity. I hope the 4 seniors and the Saint Lord can make a timely decision." Even so, even if the Demon Lord is injured and not at his peak, the Demon Palace's overall strength is still incomparably strong. It will still be difficult for the Ji family and the allied forces of the other clans to gain the upper hand. Ji Yuechu said with a sigh. What if the Qi Tian court is included? Ningchen looked at the Saint Lord of the Ji family in front of him and said calmly, "Before, the Qi Tian court was unwilling to take action because they feared the Demon Palace. However, in the current situation, the Demon Palace is seriously injured, and the Demon Lord is also seriously injured. This is the best time to counterattack. In addition, more importantly, after this battle, our combat strength will make the world realize that although the demon lord is strong, he is not absolutely invincible. Ji Yuechu was startled when he heard this. After a moment, he came back to his senses. He had actually overlooked this matter. Mr. Ning's words have enlightened me. I will send someone to the Qi Tian court to discuss the alliance again. Ji Yuechu said seriously. Ning Chen nodded and said, Saint Lord, I still have some matters to deal with, so I will not stay any longer. Once I am done, I will rush back as soon as possible to assist the Allied forces in their counterattack. Since Mr. Ning has matters to attend to, I will not keep you any longer. We will meet again someday. Be careful on the road, Ji Yuechu said. We will meet again someday. Ning Chen nodded and politely bowed to the 4 ancestors of the Ji family. Then he stepped out of the hall. After a few steps, his silhouette faded and disappeared. This child's future is limitless. Saint Lord, if possible, try your best to pull him into our Ji family. Any conditions can be considered. Looking at the young man leaving, the Ji family's heavenly ancestor retracted his gaze and looked at the Ji family's Saint Lord. Heavenly ancestor, there is something you do not know. I have already tried and even proposed to betroth Yuqing to him. However, he still refused. Ji Yuechu sighed. Hearing this, the Ji family's heavenly ancestor frowned and said, Didn't he want the divine scroll? As long as he is willing to join our Ji family, we promise to give him the cultivation method of the divine scroll. Ji Yuechu shook his head and said, It is useless. I have already made this promise. Unfortunately, he still did not agree. Strange. A puzzled look flashed across the Ji family's heavenly ancestor's face. He said, With our Ji family's background and strength, he should not have refused such generous treatment. Could the root cause be that Mr. Ning does not want to marry Yuqing? On the side, the ancestor of the 5 cardinal points, who had been silent all this time, said. Hearing this, the Ji family's heavenly ancestor and the other 2 ancestors were stunned. Could this be the reason? Marriage has always been the most common method of forming an alliance. The pearl of our Ji family is rare in both appearance and talent. This child has no reason to refuse. The Ji family's heavenly ancestor said. There are exceptions to everything. Saint Lord, you have dealt with this child the most. Why do you think he is unwilling to accept the goodwill of our Ji family? The Ji family's heavenly ancestor asked again. Ji Yuechu was silent. After a long time, he sighed and said, Perhaps the ancestor of the 5 cardinal points is right. The root cause of this matter is that Mr. Ning is unwilling to marry Yuqing. Before this, he was unable to step into the treading immortal realm. Although I admire him, I still have some misgivings. I did not expect that in just a few decades, not only did this child step into the treading immortal realm, but his strength has also reached such a terrifying level. Originally, there was a chance to provide timely assistance, but now it can only be the icing on the cake. What a pity. Saint Lord, make a decision as soon as possible. This person is worthy of our Ji family. Although the God Scroll is precious, if it can be exchanged for the protection of a future supreme expert, this transaction is not a loss. The Ji family's heavenly ancestor said calmly. Thank you for your reminder, heavenly ancestor. I know what to do. Ji Yuechu nodded. Just as the several decision-makers of the Ji family decided to rope in the knowing destiny state, in the distance, above the starry sky, a phoenix flapped its wings and disappeared in a flash. In the northwest of the All Heavens and the southeast of Luojia, where the land of the 2 regions connected, there was an ancient secret realm. It was the holy land of the moon-worshipping clan. The phoenix soared through the 9 heavens and descended from the sky. Ning Chen's silhouette appeared and landed. He walked step by step towards the holy land of the moon-worshipping clan. On the altar, the stone statue of the moon god had lost its former glory and was completely dim. In front of the altar, thousands of moon-worshipping clan members prayed to the moon, praying for the protection of the moon god. Their prayers received no response. Without the high priest who could communicate with the gods, the light of the moon god could no longer shine on the mortal world. In front of him, the silhouette walked over and looked at the thousands of moon-worshipping clan members kneeling in front of the altar with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry. With an unyielding pride, Ning Chen's knees finally touched the ground. Facing the thousands of moon-worshipping clan members, Ning Chen bowed his head, and his heart was filled with guilt. The moon-worshipping venerable had died to save them. This debt could never be repaid in this lifetime. In front of the altar, the moon-worshipping clan members looked at the young man in front of them with complicated expressions. At this time, on the altar, motes of moonlight fell, and the dim moon god statue lit up again. In just an instant, the moon god statue dimmed and returned to its original state. In front of the altar, the moon-worshipping clan members were shocked. After a long time, they regained their senses and looked at the young man in front of them. They bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, High Priest." The moon god's decree was not to be disobeyed. Thousands of moon-worshipping clan members bowed their heads and greeted the new moon-worshipping High Priest. In front of the crowd, Ning Chen was stunned. Gradually he regained his senses and said, "Rise." "Many thanks, High Priest." Thousands of moon-worshipping clan members expressed their gratitude and stood up one after another. Before moon-worshipping clan members disappeared, Ning Chen's last words were still clear in his ears. Looking at the thousands of moon-worshipping clan members in front of him, Ning Chen steeled his heart and did not decline. From today onwards, the rise and fall of the moon-worshipping clan would be shouldered by him. Chapter 968. In the Reverence Moon Ancient Land, the new High Priest took over the position. Knowing that he had to bear the Reverence Moon clan's honor, the burden on his shoulders became heavier. Ning Chen's heart was clear, so he didn't reject the offer. During these 10 days, Ning Chen remained in the Reverence Moon Holy Ground, taking over the High Priest's duties and martial skills. He laid out layers after layers of divine restrictions and formations, covering the entire Reverence Moon Ancient Ground. The final battle was coming, and he could not drag the Reverence Moon clan into it. 10 days later, Ning Chen left. The phoenix figure in red stood in front of the altar, looking at the two figures leaving. She was silent, and there was no trace of emotion in her calm eyes. In the Devil Domain, inside a majestic temple, Devil Qi surged. Inside the swirling Devil Qi, a domineering figure sat cross-legged, suppressing the moon god's power that was erupting. The coiling dragon divine bow disappeared into the severely injured heart meridian. Powerful energy spread to every meridian, destroying the indestructible body of the devil cultivator. The celestial and devil cultivator's power collided, and it was hard to tell who was the winner. The moon god's final burst of power heavily injured the devil palace's master, worsening his injuries. Outside the holy palace, Jie Tiance turned around to look at the lord of the demon palace, who was shrouded in the demonic energy. He couldn't help but frown. The outcome of this battle was beyond his expectations. The 9th son of Mo clan and the king of Beiki could reach such a terrifying level when they joined forces. The most surprising thing was the Reverence Moon Venerable, who had inherited the moon god's power. His strength had surpassed the mortal realm. Fortunately, Reverence Moon was dead. As long as the Devil Lord's injuries were healed, no one would be able to stop the Devil Palace. Saint Priest. In the void, a divine sun appeared, and Meng Yuzong walked out. He looked at the Devil Palace's decision-maker and said, "The Spirit Void Alliance is ready to counterattack." Jie Tiance nodded lightly and said, "Tell Jun Wentian to prepare for the battle. The Devil Lord might not make a move this time. Whether or not he can stop the Spirit Void Alliance's counterattack will depend on his ability." "Yes," Meng Yuzong responded. In the blink of an eye, the divine sun rose into the sky and disappeared. At the same time, in the divine palace of the Ji family in the White Sovereign City, 3 powerful figures descended from the sky. The 3 saints equal to heaven had appeared to assist Lingxiu in attacking the demonic palace. 1 pseudo-4th realm and 2 half-step 4th realm cultivators. The appearance of the 3 strongest cultivators from heaven's equal court caused the Ji family's grand elders to stand up and greet them. In the sacred hall, the Ji family's heaven, earth, black, and yellow ancestors stood quietly. As they looked at the 3 people walking towards them, a complicated look flashed across their eyes. The 3 holy protectors, equal to heaven, and the rest of them were ultimately not people of this era. Once the demonic calamity was quelled, they would also go where they should go. When the 7 of them saw each other, they all nodded and didn't say anything. From the moment they walked out, the outcome was already decided. However, they didn't regret it. That Mr. Ning hasn't come yet? The leader of the 3 holy protectors, a white-robed elder, asked. Not yet, but it should be soon. The Ji clan's heavenly ancestor replied. I'm sorry to have kept everyone waiting. Before she finished speaking, a sword light tore through the air. In the blink of an eye, Bai Yi appeared in the Ji family. Mr. Ning, how are your injuries? The Ji family's sky ancestor asked. Thank you for your concern, senior. Although I haven't fully recovered, I have already suppressed it. I can still fight with my full strength for a short period of time, Ningchen said calmly. Apart from the demon lord, the strength of the sun, moon, and star sects of the demonic palace is not weaker than us. In addition, there is Jun Wentian. If we want to suppress the demonic palace, the 4 of us and our 3 old friends, equal to heaven, must all act together. The Ji family's sky ancestor's expression turned serious as he said, if we all act together once the saint of the demonic palace makes another move, we won't be able to free ourselves. So Mr. Ning, I'll have to trouble you to contain the saint of the demonic palace. The Ji family's sky ancestor continued. Ningchen nodded and said, don't worry, senior. I will do my best. As long as we can cut off the demon lord's wings, it will be much easier to deal with the demon lord. Everyone, whether or not we can reverse the situation, depends on the result of this battle. Don't be careless, the Ji family's sky ancestor said seriously. Everyone nodded, and their expressions turned serious. In the following battle, if the demon lord couldn't act, the situation would be very advantageous to them. They couldn't afford to miss this opportunity. I know that saying this now is somewhat demoralizing, but war is always full of variables. Have you all thought about how we would face the lord of the demonic palace if he appeared on the battlefield safely? The leader of the 3 holy protectors, the white-robed elder, asked. If the demon lord appears, leave it to us. At this moment, figures walked out from the void above. Their faces were evil, and their expressions were fierce and glaring. The Yama of the underworld. Seeing the people who appeared, the Ji family's sky ancestor narrowed his eyes. These Yama of the underworld weren't weak, but it seemed a little difficult for them to deal with the demon lord. Me too. As he spoke, a slim and graceful young lady appeared in the void. Her eyes were closed, and her aura was stronger than before. Heaven's speaker, the white-robed elder said seriously. The Heaven's speaker of this generation was really young. The appearance of the Yama King and the Heaven speaker gave everyone a boost of confidence, and boosted their confidence by leaps and bounds. In the void, the young lady's figure slowly descended and walked to the side of the plain-clothed young man. She stood beside him obediently and didn't overstep. The Ji family's 4 ancestors were all stunned, not understanding what was going on. This Heaven speaker is Mr. Ning's disciple. Ji Wechu reminded them through voice transmission. The Ji family's 4 ancestors came back to their senses, and the surprise in their eyes was even stronger. This Mr. Ning had once again given them a big surprise. How are your injuries? Ningchen looked at the girl beside him and asked with concern. With Mistress and the female supreme helping me heal, I'm almost healed, Ina said softly. Ningchen nodded lightly and didn't ask any more questions. He looked at the Ji family's sacred master and said, Sacred master, let's go. Okay. Ji Wechu nodded and ordered, let's go. With this order, the generals on the White Emperor planet received the order, and immediately led their troops to the west. In the next moment, figures flashed across the starry sky and rushed toward the battlefield in the west. Yunluo Moat was a huge spatial ravine that spanned tens of thousands of miles. On both sides, the Demon Palace and the Spirit Void Army faced each other. The atmosphere was tense, and a great battle was about to break out. In front of the 2 armies, many powerful beings stood in the air. Their terrifying auras covered the sky and made the starry sky lose its color. Kill! The void swirled, and the Ji family's sacred master and the 4 ancestors appeared. With a command, the great battle began. In front of Yunluo Moat, 100,000 soldiers flew across the ravine and sped away. Since the Demon Palace appeared, The Allied forces had gained the upper hand for the first time. Tens of thousands of soldiers pressed on, wanting to completely defeat the Demon Palace's army. When the Spirit Void army moved, the Demon Palace's army moved as well. Surging demon chi pressed down, and the two forces collided. In an instant, a massacre began. Between the two armies, Jun Wentian and the Sun Moon Star Sect stepped forward. Their terrifying auras were close to the legendary fourth plane. On the opposite side, the Ji family's four ancestors and Qitian Sagely Protector also stepped forward. They used all their techniques to meet the four most powerful beings of the Demon Palace. 7 against 4. Despite the suppression of numbers, the Demon Palace's 3 ancestors and 4 guardians' expressions didn't change at all. They used their demon chi to meet the 7 powerful beings of the Ji family and Qitian Pavilion. It was an unprecedented battle. 11 powerful beings who were half a step to the fourth plane and above attacked at the same time. In an instant, the starry sky shook, and the terrifying shockwaves reached hundreds of thousands of miles away. On the battlefield, Sui stood in the air and looked at the battle below quietly, waiting for her old opponent to appear. Jiming Marquis, sorry to keep you waiting. At this moment, the wind and clouds surged in the void. A figure in a blue robe walked out and looked at the young man in front of him calmly. Since the sacred master can come, it's worth waiting for any amount of time, Ningchen said calmly. He waved his right hand, and in a dazzling green light, the famous sword of Taoism reappeared in the world. In terms of swordsmanship, you are the only one in the world. However, the more outstanding your swordsmanship is, the faster your defeat will come. As he spoke, the chess bag in Jia Tian's hand flew up. Thousands of black chess pieces flew out and turned into 2 peerless divine weapons. The black and white chess swords showed their peerless sharpness again. After a flash, the 2 figures rushed out. The 2 swords collided, and the clouds broke and the sky shook. The battle started. Outside the battlefield, the Yama Kings stood quietly and looked at the battle in front of them. They were still vigilant. For a long time, the Demon Palace had put pressure on the various domains. No one knew if there were still powerful beings hiding in the Demon Palace. They had to be careful. This time, the Spirit Void Star Zone had almost used up all their combat power. If they failed, no one would be able to stop the Demon Palace from then on. On the battlefield, the battle gradually became white-hot. Under everyone's gaze, a pale blue figure walked out. Her white bare feet stood in the starry sky. Although she had joined the demon path, her inherent otherworldly temperament was still faintly visible. Seeing the figure appear on the battlefield, the female figure flashed past and rushed toward the battlefield. The demonization of the butterfly and the flower had always been a thorn in Ji Ming's heart that could not be removed. This time, no matter what, she had to bring her back. The Chongling female supreme appeared on the battlefield after a few breaths. Without a word, she raised her hand, and the 9 hells swallowed the heavens. With a boom, the 2 legendary experts of the inner realm met again. The 9 hells' demonic skill clashed. Swallowing everything was the strongest demonic skill in the universe. When it appeared, the starry sky for thousands of miles dimmed. The two's battle alarmed all sides. In the battle, Jia Tian's glanced at the battle in the distance and said coolly, "What, you still haven't given up on this person? Marquis Ji Ming, do you know what your greatest weakness is?" "Love, your weakness is so obvious. As long as the butterfly and the flower is in this sage's hands, you will never win against me." The white chess sword pushed away the swordsman in front of him. The black chess sword in Jia Tian's left hand flew out and turned into a cold killing light that flashed into the distance. Despicable. Seeing this, Ning Chen's expression shook. He flashed out and hurried in the direction of the sword light. In the distant battle, the black chess sword flew over quickly. In the battle, the 2 people fighting did not detect it. By the time they reacted, the black sword light had already arrived. The female's expression changed. Seeing the sword light coming from behind the butterfly and the flower, she wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Ugh! A sword pierced her body and blood sprayed. In the shocking scene, a waterfall of blood bloomed in the starry sky, so beautiful it was heartbreaking. Chapter 969. On the Yunluo Moat. The flames of war were raging. The black sword radiance pierced through the air and slashed at the demonic butterfly. No one could react to the sudden scene. No one expected that the saint of the demonic palace would attack her own subordinate. The demonic butterfly came back to her senses. Looking at the sword radiance rushing toward her, she wanted to dodge, but it was too late. At the critical moment of life and death, the silhouette in plain clothes rushed forward and blocked the attack without hesitation. The sword radiance entered her body. A waterfall of blood splattered, covering the sky and the demonic butterfly's eyes. The silhouette in plain clothes staggered and fell in front of the demonic butterfly. It was so close. Blood splattered everywhere. It was so shocking. The demonic butterfly stood there in a daze, motionless. Her memory was erased. However, her hands instinctively supported the person in front of her. The spurting blood soaked her clothes. The demonic butterfly felt a sharp pain in her heart. It was so painful that she couldn't breathe. Ah! With a shrill scream, the demonic vitality of the demonic butterfly rushed to the top of her head. Her bloody hair danced wildly. Driven by her body's instinct, her eyes were full of hatred. She stepped forward and came before the saint of the demonic palace. The flower burial tears slashed down. Defying your superior, demonic butterfly, do you want to rebel? The white chest sword met the flower burial blades. Jietians looked at the woman in front of him coldly. He clenched his left hand and the black chest sword in the distance flew back. Crack! In the ear-piercing sound of clothes tearing, the black chest sword slashed the demonic butterfly's shoulder, bringing out a waterfall of blood. The mirror shooting technique reappeared in the world and suppressed the demonic butterfly. However, the demonic butterfly didn't notice. Her body glowed. The 9 underworlds swallowed the sky. The demonic might was shocking. I know every move you make. Where did you get the courage to challenge my authority? The white sword blocked and the black sword countered. The demonic butterfly's body was dyed red again. Outside the battle, the woman flashed by. She condensed the demonic vitality in her palms and attacked the saint of the demonic palace together. 2 against 1. The power of the 9 underworlds swallowing heaven appeared at the same time. However, Jietians did not dodge or evade the attacks when the two of them joined forces. He blocked the attacks with his 2 swords and activated the mirroring technique to the extreme. He was innately invincible. Snowflakes were falling from the sky. The knowing destiny state cultivator, who was hit by the saint of the devil palace, closed his eyes and focused on healing himself. The wound on his chest that had been penetrated by the black go sword gradually froze over in the wind and snow. It had mostly healed. Immortal Elder. On Ning Chen's shoulder, the little gourd revealed a tired expression. It said in a tender voice, "This is all I can do." "Thank you." Ning Chen opened his eyes and looked at the battle below. He took a step forward and disappeared instantly. Genesis Supreme swung his sword, and a boundless sword energy slashed down from the heavens, causing the space within a radius of 100 li to collapse. Jietians narrowed his eyes and stepped forward. His figure instantly retreated 1,000 feet away. "You're able to pick up your sword and fight again so soon. It seems that you have some secrets that I don't know." A cold look flashed across Jietians' face. He looked behind him and said calmly, "Master, it's your turn." As soon as he finished speaking, demonic clouds rolled in the distant sky. A terrifying aura swept over, surpassing the boundaries of heaven and earth and shocking everyone present. "Underworld, G family and Mahis Sek's 9th son, I've been waiting for you for a long time." Amidst the majestic voice, a huge demonic eye appeared in the demonic clouds. Under the terrifying demonic light, the entire Yunluo moat shook. Barren Heaven Forbidden Technique, Twilight of the Gods. With that, the Forbidden God domain opened again. The Demon Lord walked out from the surging demonic aura and released his demonic aura. Above the Yunluo moat, the world suddenly darkened. The light of heaven and earth seemed to be stripped away, and there was no longer a trace of light. Today the spirit void no longer exists. You will die without a burial place. In the darkness, a cold and emotionless voice spread across thousands of miles. After a short silence, a terrifying aura descended. On the battlefield, Thousands of experts exploded, unable to withstand the extreme demonic aura. Not good. Outside the battlefield, the expressions of the Yama kings changed. Their figures flashed, and they quickly rushed to the front. Within the Forbidden God domain, Ningchen stood in the air, looking at the demon lord in front of him. His expression turned cold. He really came. An injured Fourth Realm cultivator was still a Fourth Realm cultivator. The fact that he was invincible had never changed. Under the impermanence mask, Mu Qingshue's expression turned serious. He looked forward and asked, "How should we fight?" "Same old rules," Ningchen said. "I'll block you attack. Ener, prepare to attack at any time." "Okay." Mu Qingxue nodded and said, "Can your body still hold on?" "I'm also injured. Let's see who can't hold on first." Ningchen replied calmly. His feet moved, and he started the Demon Slayer battle again. Good timing. In the second battle, everyone's abilities were clear. The Demon Lord didn't test the waters anymore, and he went beyond the limit. Amidst the surging demonic aura, an immemorial ferocious beast appeared. It opened its huge mouth, ready to swallow the sky and the sun. With a rumble, the ferocious beast rushed past. However, a huge bronze chariot appeared, blocking the beast. The aftershock caused the bronze chariot to shake violently. In the shocking scene, the seemingly broken chariot actually withstood the attack of the Demon Palace's master, and didn't collapse. God Slayer chariot? Seeing the huge chariot on top of the chariot, the Demon Lord's eyes narrowed. This lad actually had the God Slayer chariot from the Western celestial world. In the next moment, green light rose from the God Slayer chariot. The God Slayer chariot's bloodline was refined. The God Slayer chariot displayed its magic again. Amidst the ear-piercing friction, the chariot's shape changed. A black ghost phoenix appeared. The phoenix spread its wings, and the cold wind howled. Ningchen's figure flashed, and he stood on top of the demon phoenix. With a shout, his entire body's strength was raised to the extreme. He controlled the demon phoenix and charged straight at the Demon Palace's master. Heaven's destruction transformation. Seeing this, the Demon Lord stepped down, and his entire body changed rapidly. 100 feet tall giant demon appeared in the human world. He punched out heavily, and it collided with the ancient God Slayer chariot. The collision of the phoenix and the demon caused an earth-shattering tremor. The God-forbidding domain shook violently. The aftershock spread out, and the chariot collapsed into pieces. Bai flew out and stopped 1,000 feet away. Red blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth, and it fell silently. Shadow of the remnant wind. In an instant, Mu Qingshue's body moved. His afterimage moved with the wind. The sword was extremely fast, and the shadow was extremely fast. It was so fast that it died in the blink of an eye. The Demon Lord raised his hand to block the sword. Suddenly he felt his heart sink. The collision just now had triggered the injury that he had suppressed with much difficulty. His attack was weak, and the demonic aura shook violently. The beautiful figure in white flashed a few times, and she focused again. The sword penetrated the demonic aura, and inch by inch, it pierced the demonic aura toward the wound on the Demon Lord's heart. The sword entered his body, and a groan sounded. A tinge of pain flashed past the Demon Lord's eyes. He raised his hand to block the attack. Heavenly punishment. At this moment, Ener's eyes suddenly opened in the battle. 2 drops of blood flowed down. In her hand, a Supreme Saint scepter appeared. A terrifying aura rose crazily, supporting the heavenly might. Chapter 970. On top of Yunluo Moat, the second round of the Demon Slayer battle, Peerless Foundation, World's Fastest Speed and Heaven's Speaker, these 3 peak experts teamed up to fight against the Demon Lord. The battle reached its climax and blood filled the sky. The Heaven's Speaker opened his eyes, and tears of blood dripped down. The Demon Palace's #1 saint weapon reappeared in the world, and its holy light illuminated the dark world, helping the Heaven's Speaker to slay demons and gods. The golden lightning struck down from the heavens. The Heaven's Speaker could communicate with the heavens and earth, and lead the heavens' punishment to the world, killing the Demon Lord. As the golden lightning struck, the Demon Lord's expression changed slightly. His demonic chi exploded, shaking off the impermanence in front of him. Then he gathered his energy into his palm, and the shadow of an ancient beast appeared, opening its mouth and swallowing the golden lightning. In the blink of an eye, the lightning struck down, engulfing the demon lord. The power of heaven and earth was endless, and the lightning turned into a sea, crazily attacking the demon lord's demonic chi protection. Just as the battle reached a stalemate, the white-clothed figure turned around. Her body was like a phantom, and her sword pierced through the demonic chi in front of the demon lord's heart. The sword went in 3 inches and blood splattered. The demon lord groaned, and the demonic chi around him quickly dissipated. In the next moment, the lightning struck down, and the terrifying power of heaven struck the demon lord's head. As the demon lord's demonic chi dispersed, the demon lord's body trembled, and the demonic chi around him surged wildly. Shao Tian Demon Extermination. Facing the danger again, the demon lord shouted, and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He struck out with his palm, and the space in front of him instantly collapsed. The golden lightning blocked 30% of the demonic chi, and the aftershock hit the impermanence in front of him. Seeing this, Mu Qingxue pulled out his sword and retreated, dodging the demonic chi with extreme speed. The aftershock brushed past, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Mu Qingxue's mouth. Mu Qingxue's body slid back 100 zhang, and he barely managed to stabilize his body. The difference in strength tipped the scales of the battle. The 3 of them worked together, and while they dealt heavy damage to the demon lord, they were also injured. In the battle, seeing Mu Qingxue injured, Ning Chen's figure rushed out, and used the moon-worshipping clan's martial arts. The ancient inheritance was the only one in the world. Once it was raised, the winds and clouds in all directions began to stir. Waves of snow were like a waterfall, shaking the starry sky. 12 styles of spiritual rhino, sky-propping waterfall. Against the snow as a waterfall, the raging waves slapped the stars. Ning Chen channeled his peerless foundation, and condensed the power of the 4 scrolls in his palm, activating the martial arts that the high priest of the moon-worshipping clan had just cultivated. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and the forbidden god domain appeared. The sky-reaching divine waterfall appeared. A peerless martial art reappeared in the world. The impact of the heavenly waterfall instantly froze the space within a radius of 1,000 miles, and continued to spread in all directions. The demon lord focused and clasped his fists together. Rolling demonic lightning surged out, and the terrifying demonic might climbed to its peak. The 2 extremes collided. The demonic thunder dispersed the snowfall and swept straight ahead. Ning Chen raised his hand. 4 scrolls of reincarnation grew and multiplied endlessly. Relying on his peerless foundation, he blocked another shocking move. With a loud bang, blood sprayed out. After blocking the demon lord's attacks one after another, the injuries on Ning Chen's body continued to accumulate. He was gradually showing signs of collapsing. In the fierce battle, the injuries on both sides were constantly exchanged. They had a top-notch lineup and seamless cooperation. However, in the face of the number 1 person in Starry Sky who was seriously injured, the 3 of them still found it difficult to gain the upper hand. 12 spirit rhino styles, splitting the sea and splitting the flood. After one move, another move was made. Ning Chen raised both his hands, and the rolling heavenly waves swept past, drowning the battle. Your foundation is not bad, but you will still lose without a doubt. The demon lord roared angrily. The black demonic chi of the indestructible demon body rose again, and his terrifying cultivation rose again. Suddenly, in the forbidden god domain, a powerful devouring force spread out, reaching thousands of miles away. In the midst of miserable cries, the spirit void realm experts exploded one by one. Blood splattered everywhere, and their bodies and blood chi were completely devoured by the forbidden god domain. Outside the battle, Ning Chen and Mu Qingxue's expressions turned serious. Something was not right. The demon lord's power seemed to be getting stronger. There is something wrong with this domain. Iner, try your best to break it. Mu Qingxue looked at the vibrating demonic chi in the surroundings and transmitted his voice. Okay. Not far away, Iner heard him and nodded. She activated the holy glory in her hands, and in the midst of the rising golden light, the 9 heavens lightning rose again. The shocking heavenly might rumbled, and in an instant, the golden lightning descended, blasting towards the forbidden god domain below. The thunderous force collided with the 10,000 layers of demonic domain, and in an instant, there was a violent tremor. With the support of the holy glory, the heavenly might increased by several folds, and the forbidden god domain started to shake, showing signs of instability. Outside the battle, Luotian saw the situation and seized an opportunity. She raised her divine essence to the limit and used the demon-slaying technique again. Divine punishment, borrowing sword from the heavens. The divine punishment descended, and the 9 heavens wind and clouds rolled. In the shocking scene, above the starry sky, countless sword lights sped over. After countless years, the remnant sword chi in the starry sky condensed, forming a divine and holy sword that slashed down from the heavens. In front of everyone's eyes, 100 feet long giant green sword slashed down from the heavens, and with a loud bang, it crashed into the forbidden god domain. After a series of impacts, the already unstable forbidden god domain finally reached its limit and collapsed. The aftermath shook, and above the Yunluo moat, the wind and clouds were in a frenzy. The terrifying impact spread out in all directions, devouring the heavens and destroying the earth, killing gods and Buddhas. Arg! In the midst of the groans, those with weaker martial arts immediately exploded. At the center of the battle, Jiming Muqingxue, Iner, and the others flew out dozens of feet, and their bodies were dyed red. On the opposite side, the Devil Master was also forced back by a few steps after being hit by the aftermath. Drops of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and he was severely injured again. New injuries and old injuries kept accumulating. The Devil Master staggered and vomited another mouthful of blood. The devil essence in his body was overflowing, and it backfired on him. Not good. In the distance, Jie Tian saw the situation, and his face turned serious. He said, "Jun Wentian, cover the rear. The Devil Master's injuries have relapsed and he can't fight anymore." Yes. On the Yunluo moat, Jun Wentian and the 3 sects accepted the order. They fully activated their martial arts and blocked the 3 armies. In the void, Jie Tian's figure flashed, and he came to the side of the Devil Master, whose demonic aura was surging. His 2 swords were sharp, and 1 black and 1 white sword light broke through the void, blocking the 2 people rushing over. Then, they took the Devil Master and disappeared. Ning Chun and Mu Qingxue waved their swords to disperse the sword chi. They wanted to give chase, but they had already lost track of the 2. "Go to the devil domain." Ning Chen's expression sank, and he said in a deep voice, "This battle couldn't be lost like this." The Devil Master's injuries were serious. If they missed this opportunity, they might not have such a good opportunity in the future. Amen. On the battlefield, Mu Qingxue, Luotian, and the others nodded. Their figures flashed, and they rushed towards the devil domain. Jun Wentian and the 3 sects wanted to stop them. However, the Ji family's 4 ancestors and the 3 sages, equal to heaven, stood in front of them, not allowing them to take half a step. Hateful. The 3 sects' expressions sank. Looking at the 7 people blocking them, killing intent kept jumping in their eyes. In the all-heaven starfield, streams of light sped through the starry sky, rushing towards the devil domain. At the front, Jie Tian carried the heavily injured Devil Master, and his speed became faster and faster. Like the most resplendent meteor in the starry sky, they disappeared in an instant. In the devil domain, 2 streams of light flew in. After landing, Jie Tian looked back at the horizon, and with a wave of his right hand, 4 huge demonic figures appeared, standing tall in the sky. He opened the Devil Palace's 4 symbols great formation. After the formation was opened, Jie Tian retracted his gaze and walked towards the sacred palace with the Devil Master. "Master, I will help you heal your injuries." Jie Tian helped the Devil Master sit down in front of the sacred palace's throne. The Devil Master nodded and focused on suppressing the injuries in his body. Before the throne, Jie Tian's expression turned serious. His palm turned into Yuan Qi, and suddenly, a vast palm landed on the Devil Master's head. The sudden change caused blood to dye the throne red. The Devil Master opened his eyes and looked at the Saint Arbiter before him. He was shocked. Why? Countless runes rose from the throne, suppressing the Devil Master's cultivation. The Devil Master's eyes were filled with shock and anger. Because you're not a good master. Jia Tiant said indifferently. The Devil Palace needs a unified command. Only one can exist between the Saint Arbiter and the Devil Master. After saying that, a faint brilliance rose in the sacred palace. It was so familiar and so shocking. 9 Underworld's heaven-devouring demon scripture. The Devil Master was shocked. I have been preparing for this day for a long time. The appearance of the butterfly and the flower made me see hope. Master, from now on, I, the Saint Arbiter, will shoulder the glory of the Devil Palace. As he spoke, the faint brilliance around Jia Tiant's was extremely bright. The 9 Underworlds devoured the sky, and the Devil Master's body was completely engulfed. Haha! This desolate laugh contained too much. The Devil Master's body gradually disappeared in the faint brilliance. I will wait for you on the road to the underworld. The last voice sounded like a curse, but also like a statement. In the faint brilliance, the Devil Master's body quickly dissipated and merged into the body of the conspirator in front of the throne. In the next moment, tribulation clouds rolled wildly above the 9 heavens, and the entire sky above the Devil Domain instantly dimmed. Outside the Devil Domain, figures rushed over. When they felt the terrifying pressure above the 9 heavens, their expressions changed, and they stopped. What happened? Mu Qingxue looked at the terrifying heavenly might gathering in front of him and asked. This is. Luotian's gaze turned serious. The heavenly tribulation of the 4th realm. 4th realm. Ning Chen's expression turned cold when he heard this. He looked at the Devil Domain in the distance. It seemed that something had happened here that they didn't know about. Devil Domain, Devil Palace's sacred palace. After devouring the Devil Master's body, Jia Tiant's aura changed rapidly. His brocade coat and black hair fluttered. Turning around, Jia Tiant's walked out of the sacred palace step by step. His aura became stronger and stronger, surpassing the limits of the mortal realm, and rushing straight to the legendary 4th realm. In front of the sacred palace, Jia Tiant's walked out and looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Light flashed in his eyes. Finally, this day had come. Outside the Devil Domain, Ning Chen looked at the figure walking out of the sacred palace. His expression darkened, and he guessed what had happened. This wasn't the first time he saw such a situation. Back then, the 4th realm Xianji had also chosen the same path. Jiming Marquis, and friends from the underworld, please wait for a moment. As he spoke, Jia Tiant's walked forward. However, an earth-shattering thunder sounded. The entire Devil Domain was engulfed by lightning. The Devil Palace's sacred palace has entered the 4th realm. Outside the Devil Domain, everyone's expression darkened. This was really bad news to add frost to snow. Ning Chen looked forward and sneered. The hearts of the wise are indeed dirty. Chapter 971. In the Demon Domain, the Saint of the Demon Palace had betrayed their master. With the heavenly plan, the situation changed. In the sky above the Demon Domain, the heavenly tribulation descended. The sea of lightning drowned the world, making it impossible to see what was happening. Vaguely, there seemed to be war drums beating and weapons clashing. Horrifying shockwaves rippled out continuously, destroying one side of the world after another. Outside the Demon Domain, the people of the underworld stood in the air. No one stepped forward. The heavenly tribulation was unstoppable. This was a great taboo. Once they stepped in, they would suffer the same fate. In front of the underworld kings, Ning Chen looked forward quietly. His eyes were cold. It was obvious that the master of the Demon Palace was doomed. Next, the enemies they would face would be more troublesome. A saint of the Demon Palace who had entered the 4th realm would undoubtedly be more troublesome than the previous master of the Demon Palace. In addition to absolute strength, they also had to be wary of the saint of the Demon Palace. What should we do? Beside him, Mu Qingxue asked. Wait and see. Ning Chen replied calmly. A saint of the Demon Palace who has just entered the 4th realm shouldn't be as strong as the Demon Lord. We still have a chance. Mu Qingxue and the other kings of Underworld nodded. In the current situation, They could only wait for the saint of the demon palace to come out before making a decision. In the demon domain, the lightning became more and more intense. Wave after wave of lightning fell. Amidst it, the war drums beat deafeningly. The scene couldn't be seen clearly. Only the horrifying aura that spread out showed how terrifying the heavenly tribulation of the fourth realm was. After waiting for a long time, the demon domain turned into scorched earth. Almost half of it was destroyed in the heavenly tribulation. Above the 9 heavens, the tribulation clouds gradually dispersed. Below, the lightning dissipated. Jietiance, who was wearing a blue brocade robe, walked out. He looked at the people outside the demon domain and said, "Sorry for making you wait. Lord Saint, how is the master of the demon palace now?" Ningchen looked at the former and asked calmly. "My master is injured and can't come out to greet all of you. It's the same for me to do it for him," Jietiance said calmly. "In that case, I'll do as you say," Ningchen replied coldly. He waved the sword in his hand and a majestic sword intent gathered. A terrifying sword light cut through the starry sky and slashed down. The sword light streaked across with boundless might, breaking through the void and tearing apart the polar night. Below, a cold look flashed across Jietiance's eyes. He waved the black and white chess swords in his hand, and 2 sword lights broke out. They did not contain sword will, but the sword momentum was earth-shattering. With a rumble, the sword lights collided. The white sword light broke through the sword light tiger, while the black sword light continued to speed forward, its power becoming more and more astonishing. Outside the demonic zone, many figures moved in an instant. Flowing lights streaked across the space as they hurried forward. The Yama kings of the 4 palaces joined forces to slay the demons. Under the evil face masks, Xia Ziyi, Yishuan Miao, Ai Ran, and Luo Shen joined forces to unleash wave after wave of attacks. Outside the battle, Ning Chun, Mu Qingxue, and Yiner watched the battle for a while before joining in as well. The 7 experts who stood at the peak of the world joined forces to fight against the saint of the Demon Slayer Palace. The brilliance of the palm and the sword intertwined with each other, creating a gorgeous and extraordinary splendor. In the night sky, the clouds of the 9 heavens surged, and the ear-piercing sound of chains rang out, reflecting the extreme brilliance of the martial arts. In the battle, Jietiance held 2 swords in his hands. With his supreme cultivation base and the mirror shooting art, he was undefeatable. Even when facing the 7 experts, he was not at a disadvantage. After dozens of exchanges, it was difficult to break through the mirror shooting art. A cold light flashed in Ning Chen's eyes. This saint of the demon palace had just entered the 4th level, and his control of power was not as good as the demon lord. However, the mirror shooting art he used was really troublesome. 12 styles of spiritual rhino, reverse Qi Xianhuang. The moon-worshipping clan's martial arts appeared again. The Xianhuang reverse Qi Xuanhuang's vigorous and vast energy collided with the black and white chess swords. In an instant, on the other side of the battle, Mu Qingxue's expression turned serious. He moved his sword and broke through the attack with extreme speed. The sword light pierced through the air. "You guys are too weak." When the sword arrived in front of him, Jietiance's demonic qi surged out and blocked the sword with extreme speed. "I've seen your moves clearly these days. Now it's useless." With a shout, the demonic qi rebounded, and the people who surrounded him were immediately sent flying. Their bodies were dyed red. There was a clear gap between the strong and the weak. Even if it was 7 against 1, it was still difficult to erase the huge gap between the realms. "Retreat." Seeing that the situation was unfavorable, Ningchen waved his sword and said in a deep voice. The Yama kings of the 4 palaces had heard this before. Without any hesitation, they took a step forward and retreated. "Ina, you go too." After the 4 Yama kings left, Ningchen looked at the girl not far away and said. Iner's eyes narrowed, and she suppressed the worry in her heart. Her figure flashed, and she left the demon area. Jiming Marquis, speaking of which, this saint of the demon palace has to thank you. If it weren't for you guys worsening the demon lord's injuries, I wouldn't have found a chance to attack. So you guys will stay here today. As soon as he finished speaking, the black and white chess swords in Jietiance's hand pierced through the air and turned into 2 black dragons. attacking the two people in front of him. Ning Chun and Mu Qingxue waved their swords to block the attacks. With a bang, the demonic qi entered their bodies, and the corners of their mouths turned red. Go! Ning Chun shouted, and Taisher condensed the power of the frost moon in his hand. The dark moon rose and fell from the sky. With a rumbling sound, the dark moon descended, and ice covered thousands of miles. In the wind and snow, the two stepped forward and quickly left. In the demon area, the black and white chess swords returned. Jie Tian slashed the dark moon with his sword, and just as he was about to give chase, his expression froze. In the distance, a streak of eerie light pierced through the air. It was so terrifying that it surpassed the limit of the third realm, and was approaching the fourth realm. With killing intent approaching, Jie Tian waved his sword to block the eerie light. With a bang, he took half a step back. In the distance, a man walked over. His body was surging with killing intent, and the third eye between his brows emitted demonic light. Its power was earth-shattering, and it distorted the starry sky. Jun Wentian, are you going to betray your master? Jie Tian looked at the first guardian of the demon palace walking over from afar, and said in a deep voice, "The demon lord has treated you well. Jie Tian, you deserve to die." The truth in front of him was already indisputable. Jun Wentian's figure flashed past, and the moon demon divine weapon appeared in his hand. The 3 points and 2 blades surged with demonic qi, and the divine spear was about to kill. Jie Tian waved his sword to block the divine weapon, but he felt his body sink, and his body fell. The divine weapon of the Moon Demon clan is indeed extraordinary. However, it's useless against me. Jie Tian's eyes turned cold, and he raised his vital energy again. He activated his supreme cultivation, and forcefully stopped his body from falling. The black chess sword slashed past, and the void in front of him split apart. The sword light that engulfed the world continued to spread, and the palaces were instantly devoured, vanishing completely. Jun Wentian's demonic might engulfed the sky, and he was unparalleled. His third eye between his brows shone again, and drops of blood dripped down. Demonic light shone out, and he took the attack head-on. With a loud rumble, the fourth realm's power collided. The aftershock caused both of them to take several steps back. However, the difference in their martial arts made the originally evenly matched move obvious. Blood dripped down from the Moon Demon divine weapon, and Jun Wentian barely managed to stabilize himself. He vomited a mouthful of blood, and he was heavily injured. Jun Wentian, don't think that you can go against me just because you have that eye. Before absolute power, your strength is nothing. Jie Tian sneered, and he raised his hand to wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. The black and white chess sword in his hand shone again, and demonic flames rose instantly, burning the sky and boiling the sea. The demonic flames attacked him, and Jun Wentian blocked the demonic attack with his revolving spear. However, the demonic flames could not be stopped, and the waves of fire passed through his body, bringing out a dazzling waterfall of blood. Ugh! Jun Wentian staggered, and blood kept dripping from his body. Jun Wentian, the first guardian of the Moon Demon Palace, was so weak before the fourth realm saint of the Moon Demon Palace. Jun Wentian, submit to me, and I can still spare your life. Otherwise you can go down and accompany the Moon Weaver girl and the others. Jie Tian said coldly as he stepped forward and looked at the heavily injured man. I'd rather die than submit to a despicable person like you. Jun Wentian struggled to straighten his body, and he activated his martial arts again. The dim light rose and filled the entire demonic domain. Blood dripped down, and his vitality was drained bit by bit. He was barely holding on, and he only hoped to drag the person in front of him into hell with him. Jun Wentian activated what little vitality he had left, and a forbidden technique burned his vitality, breaking through the limits of his cultivation, and rushed straight to Heaven's Gate. You want to fight with your life? Difficult. With a shout, Jie Tian's figure swept out, and he saw through the situation. The white chess sword shook off the Moon Demon divine weapon, and when the opening appeared, the black chess sword slashed and pierced the former's heart. Ugh! With a painful groan, the demonic aura around Jun Wentian dissipated rapidly, and the sword destroyed his heart meridians, scattering his vitality. Caught you! Jun Wentian endured the pain and raised his hand to grab the arm of the saint in front of him. Immediately, the dim light around him surged wildly, drowning the surrounding 100 feet. Let's go to hell together. Between Jun Wentian's brows, the third demonic eye was extremely bright, and it instantly devoured all of his vitality. The demonic light broke out, destroying everything around him. The heaven and earth collapsed, and everything within 1,000 miles turned into nothingness. The entire demonic domain rumbled and fell continuously. The doomsday-like scene was shocking. After a while, the aftershock gradually dissipated, and the saint of the demon palace appeared in the rolling sand waves. In front of him, Jun Wentian, who was covered in blood, slowly fell down. His vitality was completely gone, and there was not a trace of aura left. He used to be a brave warrior, and his voice shook the starry sky, rarely meeting a worthy opponent. But in the end he died in the hands of his own people. How miserable and ironic was that? With a thump, his body landed on the ground, kicking up 3 feet of sand. The light in Jun Wentian's eyes gradually dimmed, and it was filled with regret and unwillingness. With Jun Wentian dead, Jie Tian staggered and vomited a mouthful of blood. On his chest, a wound that was so deep that the bones could be seen appeared. The first law protector of the demon palace had counterattacked before his death, and for the first time, he had heavily injured the saint of the demon palace. Raising his hand, Jun Wentian condensed his energy and suppressed the injury. Just as he was about to retrieve the demonic eye and demonic artifact, he saw 2 sword lights piercing through the air. Before he could react, the 2 silhouettes turned back, taking the moon demon divine weapon lying on the ground and Jun Wentian's body with them. Jie Tian swung his sword to block the sword light that swept towards him. With a thump, it affected his injuries and he took half a step back. Jiming Marquis, the underworld's Wuchang. Both of you deserve to die. Looking at the 2 silhouettes disappearing into the starry sky, Jie Tian barely managed to stabilize his body. His eyes were filled with coldness, and his killing intent was bone-chilling. Chapter 972. In the Ziwei Galaxy, above the 3 divine suns, the underworld continent sat. 10 majestic palaces towered into the clouds. Inside the Yama Palace, Ningchen stood quietly. Looking at Jun Wentian's corpse and the moon demon divine weapon on the ground, he had mixed feelings. Jun Wentian was definitely one of the strongest in the demon palace. Apart from the demon lord and the current saint of the demon palace, Jun Wentian's existence was their biggest threat. However, no one had thought that such a strong person would die in the hands of one of their own. How ironic. Jiming Marquis, it's time for you to fulfill your promise. At this moment, a familiar voice came from the Chaos Scroll. It was Xiao Yu's voice that came from an endless distance away. You are really well informed. You know that Jun Wentian has fallen into my hands so quickly. Ningchen replied indifferently. Isn't the greatest use of the Scroll of Ming to know everything in the world? Jiming Marquis, I'll be waiting for you. Xiao Yu's voice came from the Chaos Scroll again. After that, it became calm again. Ningchen was silent. After a while, he sighed softly and stepped forward. The wind and snow rolled and gradually swallowed Jun Wentian's body. After 2 breaths, the wind and snow dissipated. A demonic eye with rising light appeared in Ningchen's hand. Its extremely strong aura was still terrifying. It didn't change at all because of the death of its owner. Ningchen turned and left the palace. In front of the palace, he flashed and flew toward the starry sky. At the border of the Ziwei Galaxy and the Red Phoenix Galaxy, a stream of light in white clothes sped past without a moment's delay. Jinxi City, Xiaoyu. On the 2nd floor, the Xiaoyu Tower in a silver-gray cloak stood quietly. Looking at the young man walking toward her, she smiled and said, Brother Ning, you have kept your promise. You came so quickly. Ningchen raised his hand. In the dim light, a demonic eye with astonishing might appeared and flew toward the person in front of him. The Xiaoyu Tower took the demonic eye and observed it for a while. Then she said, What a pity. In less than 100 years, with this eye, Jun Wentian will definitely be the 2nd person in the world to step into the 4th level. There are only a few strong people in the world with such tolerance. No matter how tolerant they are, They still need time to realize their potential. Jun Wentian is indeed strong, but he is dead now, Ning said indifferently. Brother Ning is right. The Dawn Moon House mistress put away the demonic eye and said, "It's useless to be an expert who can't reach the end, no matter how talented he is. By the way, Brother Ning, have you thought of a way to deal with the Saint of the Devil Palace? The current Jietiance is even more troublesome than the Devil Lord back then." Ning Chen shook his head and said, "The mirroring technique and the cultivation of the fourth realm are almost flawless. I don't have any good ideas for now." The Waning Moon Tower's mistress smiled gently and walked to the table. She poured a cup of tea and handed it to the former. "I didn't expect that there would be something in this world that Brother Ning can't solve." Ning Chen took the teacup, took a sip and said calmly, "No man is a saint. There will always be a time when his wisdom is exhausted. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm no different from other people. There will also be times when I'm helpless. Brother Ning is too modest." The Dawn Moon Tower's mistress smiled and said, "In the current situation, the Ji family, Beiki and Butian, the three great inheritances have joined forces. The combat power of the Devil Palace has been reduced again and again. Although the Devil Palace is still powerful on the surface, there's no doubt that the Devil Palace is no longer as invincible as it was when it first appeared. Brother Ning's contribution to this is immeasurable." "What do you want to say, mistress? Just say it." Ning Chen listened quietly. After a while he spoke. "Heh." The Dawn Moon Tower's mistress chuckled and said, "What I mean is very simple. Brother Ning, you can eliminate the Saint of the Devil Palace the same way you sent the Lord of Hell away back then, as long as you're willing to pay the price." Upon hearing this, Ning Chen's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. Even if his mind was firm, he couldn't help but feel emotional at this moment. "What's wrong? Does Brother Ning think that this method is not feasible? Or rather, Brother Ning's heart is no longer as cold and resolute as before?" The Dawn Moon Tower's mistress smiled. "No one has the right to decide the life and death of others at will, not even me." Ning Chen's expression turned serious, and he said in a deep voice, "100 years ago, I didn't have a choice. 100 years later, I don't want the same tragedy to happen again. However, Brother Ning, you can't deny that this is actually the method with the least sacrifice." The Dawn Moon Tower's mistress's expression became serious, and she said calmly, "Combining light and chaos, using the power of all living beings to suppress the power of the fourth realm of the Devil Palace's saint. Although there will be sacrifices, this sacrifice is less than 1/10 of the killing that the Devil Palace has caused." Ning Chen clenched his fists, and his usually calm heart was in turmoil. After a while, he raised his eyes and looked at the person in front of him. He said, "Mistress, you should know that if we combine light and chaos, these two scrolls of the heavenly tomes will disappear again. The outer heaven is not like the inner world. Once the two scrolls disappear, even if they are reborn one day, it will be impossible to find them in today's vast star area. That's why I said that Brother Ning has to be able to pay the price. If you want to take the scroll of light from me, the price will not be small." The Dawn Moon Tower poured herself a cup of tea, and said with a smile, "What does mistress want?" Ning Chen asked calmly. "Back then, I had said that if I were to help you find a way to bring the dead back to life, Brother Ning would have to exchange your sword for it. Now, I still have the same condition. If Brother Ning wants to take away the scroll of light, you will have to exchange your sword for it," the Dawn Moon House master said. When Ning Chen heard this, his eyes narrowed. He said, "Sword? I have more than one sword. Which one does mistress want?" "Brother Ning, you don't seem to understand what I mean." The Dawn Moon Tower picked up the teacup, took a sip and said lightly, "I want Brother Ning's own sword, not the sword in your hand. The sword bones, the sword aura, the sword moves, and even the sword intent. I will take away all of Brother Ning's comprehension of the sword in this life." When Ning Chen heard this, his body trembled violently. His eyes were full of emotions, and he couldn't hide his shock. "I know that this sounds too shocking and even unacceptable to Brother Ning. However, the scroll of light is very important to me. If Brother Ning wants to take it away, you have to pay the price," the Dawn Moon Tower said calmly. Ning Chen fell silent. He couldn't lift the hand holding the teacup, nor could he put it down. No matter how calm he was, he couldn't make a decision for a while. After the spirit void realm is the Ziwei Star Zone. Brother Ning, you have no choice. Unless you have the confidence to stop the Demon Palace before they attack the Ziwei Star Zone, the inner realm will be affected by the war, and it is irreversible. The Dawn Moon Tower looked at the young man in front of her and added more fuel to the fire. Crack! There was the sound of the teacup shattering. The tea spilled through the cracks between his fingers, and there was a faint blood-red color. Ningchen recovered from the silence. He looked at the Dawn Moon Tower in front of him and said calmly, "Thank you for your reminder. I will give you an answer as soon as possible." Chapter 973. In the Spirit Void Starfield, the flames of war rose again. The Demon Palace's saint personally led the expedition, accompanied by the Sun, Moon and Star sects. After entering the 4th level, the Demon Palace's saint's battle prowess was unprecedentedly terrifying. The Spirit Void Alliance was defeated again and again. Soon more than half of the Spirit Void Starfield was lost. In the White Emperor planet, demonic clouds pressed down. The Spirit Void Alliance retreated to the White Emperor planet, making their last stand. In the White Emperor city and the Ji family, many experts stood in this ancient inheritance. They looked at the experts of the Spirit Void Alliance falling from the sky, their faces filled with sorrow. They knew very well that the White Emperor planet couldn't be defended. Or rather, the entire Spirit Void Starfield couldn't be defended. Mr. Ning, this is the Divine Scroll. Yuqing and the younger generation of the Ji family have already left under the protection of the 9th Elder. In the future, please take care of them. In front of the sacred palace, Ji Yuechu stuffed a golden page into the hands of the young man beside him. Ningchen looked at the divine scroll in a daze. His heart was abnormally heavy. Mr. Ning, leave quickly. This place won't be defended for long. Ji Yuechu took a step forward and rushed into the 9 heavens. In the 9 heavens, demonic clouds rolled, covering the sky and the sun. The man in the blue brocade coat stood in the air like a god and a demon. Demonic chi swirled around his body. Even though he was surrounded by dozens of peak experts, he still had the absolute advantage. A demonic calamity caused the world to mourn. The martial prowess that surpassed the limits of the mortal world made all resistance pale. Boom! Muffled thunder cut through the dusky sky. Heavy rain poured down. It was as if the heavens were crying for this calamity. The rain fell, making loud splashing sounds. It fogged the eyes of the common people. Blood mixed with the rain and flowed down, dyeing the entire ground red. Mr. Ning, let's go. The Ji clan's heavenly ancestor stepped forward. He looked at the sky and said with a hoarse voice, "Our era has already ended. In this golden era, we old fellows can't be in the way anymore. You guys are the true masters of this era." After saying that, the Ji family's heavenly ancestor continued to step forward. Under the heavy rain, his figure rushed into the sky and joined the battle. In the end, an expert entered the battlefield. His divine might was world-shocking, and the entire battlefield was filled with a berserk aura. Shouts of killing shook the heavens. Ningchen stood in front of the Ji family's Saint Palace, looking at the figures falling from the sky. His heart grew heavier and heavier. At the same time, in the sky above the Bai family in the Alcade Star region, an eerie nether aura filled the air. It was abnormally heavy, causing this ancient inheritance that had been passed down for countless years to become nervous. This was a true immortal bloodline aristocratic family that was as famous as the Ling Shuji family. They had always kept a low profile and rarely appeared in the aristocratic family. They did not expect the nether calamity to take the initiative to descend. Is this the Bai clan with the bloodline of a true immortal? It seems that the name doesn't match the reality. 2 silhouettes walked out from the underworld aura. One of them was dressed in black, and his aura was sharp and overbearing. Beside him was a man in silver divine clothes. His temperament was extraordinary, and his aura was exceptionally noble. It was rare in the mortal world, and it made people raise their eyebrows. Mo Luo Tian and Di Ming Tian joined forces and pressured the Bai family. Everyone in the Bai family turned solemn. One by one, The experts walked out as if they were facing a great enemy. Hall Master. Diming Tian spoke calmly. Let's do it. Mo Luo Tian nodded and waved his right hand. Ghostly aura filled the air, and illusory figures appeared out of thin air. Each of them was at the peak of the third realm, and chains wrapped around their bodies. They were like death reapers that walked out from hell, eerie and terrifying. Kill. With a command, more than a dozen hell's emissaries rushed down. Their nether aura covered the sky and the sun, drowning thousands of miles of territory. In the next moment, the sound of killing shook the sky. The nether calamity descended, implicating countless lives. It came without any warning, and it was cruel and bloody. With the arrival of danger, the experts in the Bai family's ancient land walked out one after another. 4 half-step fourth realms joined forces to block the calamity. The crisscrossing black chains sealed the sky and the earth, and even sealed the hope of the mortal world. Shocking strength reappeared in the mortal world, causing people to recall the terrifying history of the past in horror. Won't the Devil Palace be alerted if we take action so soon? Mo Luo Tian looked at the young man in silver beside him and asked. The Demon Palace is now focused on attacking the Spirit Void Starfield, and has no time to care about other things. It will be too late by the time the Demon Palace Saint knows about this, Diming Tian said calmly. Ji family's blood of gods, Bai family's blood of true immortals, Jia Nether Hall's immemorial underworld soul, and Sword Pavilion's divine artifact, Sun Moon Annihilation. This time, it should be enough to open the seal set by the Queen Mother of the West, Mo Luo Tian said solemnly. In the ancient war, the Queen Mother of the West sealed our world, causing us to suffer the pain of being sealed. Now, it's time for this world to pay for it, Diming Tian said calmly. It's a pity that we couldn't get the Queen Mother of the West's hairpin. Otherwise, opening the seal wouldn't be so troublesome, Mo Luo Tian said solemnly. The Sun Moon Annihilation is enough. After such a long time, the seal set by the Queen Mother of the West is far from what it used to be. If it wasn't for the Queen Mother of the West's remnant soul strengthening the seal when the Western Celestial Realm appeared, our world would have already descended, Diming Tian said coldly. I'm also looking forward to this moment, Mo Luo Tian said calmly. With the help of the Palace Lord, this day will come very soon, Diming Tian said. Diming Tian said. When the time comes, the Hall Master will know what the world where the real experts live should be like. The humans in this world are too weak. Without the protection of the 4 immortal realms, they can't withstand a single blow. The 4th realm? Mo Luo Tian turned his gaze and asked. Diming Tian smiled faintly and didn't say anything more. The 4th realm was never the end. People who looked at the sky from the bottom of a well were always so stupid that it was disgusting. The 2 realms changed and suffered a calamity together. The flames of war filled the sky and burned the former divine lands to death. 3 days later, the White Emperor Star was dead silent. The entire Ji family was in ruins. The divine blood family that had been passed down for countless years was almost completely annihilated. Outside the White Emperor Star, 2 figures stood in the air. One was wearing plain clothes and the other was wearing white clothes. They were so clean that not a single speck of dust could be seen. They clenched their fists tightly and made cracking sounds. Facing the cruel scene in front of them, a deep sense of helplessness lingered in their hearts. Even though they had schemed and dealt heavy damage to the Demon Palace again and again, after getting rid of the 4 great protectors, the 7 great sinners appeared. After dealing heavy damage to the 7 great sinners, another Demon Master appeared. Now the Demon Master was dead, and the Saint of the Demon Palace stepped into the 4th realm. The endless chaos made people unable to see the end of the darkness. Qing Shui, am I being too indecisive? Ning Chen looked at the woman beside him and asked softly. Why do you ask? Mu Qingxue said calmly. The Dawn Moon Tower Master is right. Combining light and chaos is the way with the least sacrifice. Perhaps, I should have made a decision earlier, Ning Chen said softly. No matter what decision you make, it's not your responsibility. Mu Qingxue looked at the man beside him and said seriously, it's not your responsibility to protect the common people. Even if you don't want the inner world to be affected by the flames of war, this matter shouldn't be shouldered by you. You've sacrificed too much for this world. Now, no matter what decision you make, no one has the right to judge you. Ningchen was silent. After a while he said softly, I'm worried about them. Nothing can happen to the inner world. Then do as you wish. No matter what the consequences are, at least you won't regret it. Mu Qingxue said seriously. Ningchen looked at his hands and was in a daze. In his life, he had relied on the sword in his hand to get to where he was today. If he lost his sword, could he still go on? If you lose your sword, you can practice it again. If 10 years isn't enough, then 100 years. If 100 years isn't enough, then 300 years. I've cultivated the great oblivion, and my memories can disappear at any time. You promise me that you'll tell me what I've forgotten. Today, I'll also promise you that I'll help you find your lost sword, no matter how long it takes or how difficult it is. Mu Qingxue looked at the former and promised seriously. Ningchen came back to his senses and looked at the woman in front of him. He didn't say a word for a long time. You promised that princess of the barbarian dynasty that you'll return her a peaceful world in 3 years. Now the time is almost up. You should fulfill your promise and do as you wish. Even if you lose your sword, you still have the 6 scrolls of the heavenly book. You still have an unparalleled foundation. Since ancient times, you're still the first person to step into the immortal realm. Mu Qingxue said softly. Ningchen looked at the woman in front of him quietly. After a while he smiled and said, Wait for me to come back. Okay. Mu Qingxue nodded and replied. Ningchen smiled and didn't say anything more. He turned around and walked toward the red phoenix star area. In the starry sky, Mu Qingxue looked at the figure that was disappearing in front of her. A strange light flashed in her eyes. How many years had it been? Perhaps this time, she could see the real knowing destiny Marquis. Although the king of hell who hid in the darkness had damaged the demon palace time and time again, he was still scheming in the end. Without the light, his glory shouldn't be covered by the darkness. Now it was time for him to be himself. The real number 1 in the inner world, the guardian of the divine land, the man closest to God in the human world. In the Golden Dawn city of the Red Phoenix Star area, a white-clothed figure walked over. His aura was no longer hidden. It was powerful, heavy and unfathomable. In the bright room on the 2nd floor of the Dawn Moon restaurant, the tower master of the Dawn Moon restaurant looked at the young man walking over with respect. He finally came. She waved her right hand, and the bright scroll appeared. The tower master of the Dawn Moon restaurant waited quietly in the room, waiting for the young man who would shock the entire starry sky. Tower master, sorry to keep you waiting. As she spoke, the white-clothed figure appeared in front of the bright room. He walked in and said calmly, Brother Ning's arrival has indeed shocked me. This is the bright scroll. The tower master of the Dawn Moon restaurant personally presented the heavenly scroll. Then she flipped her left hand and a silver-gray soul bead appeared. She handed it over. Take this bead. After the battle, all of Brother Ning's comprehension of the sword will be absorbed into this bead. From now on, it will no longer belong to Brother Ning. The tower master of the Dawn Moon restaurant said seriously. Thank you, tower master. Ningchen took the heavenly scroll and soul bead. He looked at the person in front of him and said calmly, Tower master, see you later. Then Ningchen didn't stay any longer. He turned and left. Chapter 974. At the border of Spirit Void and Ziwei, the Demon Palace's army continued to advance. They were like a flood that covered all the light in the world. The demonic calamity lasted for several years. Many life stars were burned to the ground. White bones piled up like mountains. Lives were plunged into misery and suffering. After seizing resources from one domain after another, the Demon Palace's forces grew larger and larger. Their army numbered in the hundreds of thousands, and they spread across the various domains. The Spirit Void had fallen, and the Ziwei was completely exposed to the Demon Palace's army. The flames of war spread, and the inner realm fell into a new crisis. Heavenly Palace Planet, Heavenly Palace Sacred Ground. Chao Tianqi stood before her star soul life sea and looked at the Demon Palace's army. Her beautiful face revealed a serious expression. She didn't expect the Demon Palace to be so fast. In less than 10 years, they'd conquered several large domains and fought their way to the Z-Way star. They're here. As he spoke, a powerful figure walked over from behind. He looked at the star spirit life sea in front of him and spoke. They're very close. Qiao Tianxi nodded and said, Minister of Heaven, what do you think our heavenly palace should do? Give up. Xiao Bieli said calmly. The demon palace's strength isn't something our heavenly palace can resist. The only way is to avoid them. Qiao Tianxi was silent. 100 years ago, they'd gone through countless hardships to save the heavenly palace from the calamity. They were unwilling to give up like this. There's no need to retreat. At this moment, a snowstorm blew above the sacred ground, and a plain-clothed figure walked out. He looked at the heavenly palace's sovereigns and spoke. Jiming Marquis, Qiao Tianxi and Xiao Bieli were shocked when they saw this person, and they spoke with surprise. Star Sovereign Minister of Heaven, how have you been? Ningchen stepped forward and said softly, I'm here to ask the Heavenly Minister for a favor. Please speak, Mr. Ning, Xiao Bieli said seriously. Minister of Heaven's attainments in spatial arrays are unparalleled. I'd like to ask for your help in setting up a formation, Ningchen said. Xiao Bieli's eyes flashed and he nodded. I'll do my best to help. Thank you. Ningchen nodded and replied. 10 days later, two figures appeared on the path of the Devil Palace's army. They joined forces to set up a formation, making the final preparations for the upcoming battle. In the distance, demonic clouds covered the sky, and a heavy pressure extended for tens of thousands of miles. Even from afar, one could clearly feel the terrifying pressure. Minister of Heaven, you can go back first. Ningchen looked at the man beside him and said. Be careful. Xiao Bieli sighed lightly and instructed. I will. Ningchen nodded as he looked at the approaching army of the Devil Palace. Xiao Bieli didn't say anything else as he gazed at the resolute glow in the former's eyes. He just took a step forward and left. After the celestial phenomenon left, only Su Yi's figure remained in the starry sky. She was all alone and proud. The phoenix body temporarily returned. The demon body went all out, and the three bodies gathered. After 100 years, they once again defied the heavens to slay the immortals. 100,000 miles away, the Devil Palace's army advanced rapidly, day and night without rest. The Saint of the Devil Palace stood silently on the war chariot at the front. His aura, which had been restrained in the past, was now completely domineering as he swept through the various powers and achieved the unification of the Devil Palace step by step. After advancing for 100,000 miles, Jie Tiance suddenly frowned and waved his hand to stop the army. He looked ahead as a wisp of seriousness flashed through his eyes. Something wasn't right. Saint, I've been waiting for you for a long time. As he spoke, a figure in plain clothes appeared in the starry sky, and he looked ahead as he spoke. Jiming Marquis. Jie Tiance's eyes turned cold as he looked at the young man who was blocking his path. It really is him. It's inconvenient to talk here. I wonder if you can move to another place? Ningchen looked at the former and spoke calmly. What else is there to talk about between us? Jiming Marquis, I've experienced your cunning many times. This time, I won't give you another chance. Jie Tiance spoke coldly. Unfortunately, it's not up to the saint to decide whether to leave or not. Ningchen sighed and didn't say anything else. He took a step forward, and the starry sky around him suddenly shook. Countless runes shot up into the sky, and a spatial array was formed, instantly enveloping the two of them. Jie Tiance's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to break free, he was shocked to see Bai flashing and slashing with her sword. Jie Tiance raised his hand to block the sword. There was a loud boom, and the aftermath roared. In an instant, the spatial array was formed, and the two of them disappeared in front of the dozens of demons. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, on a barren planet of life, the two of them appeared. As soon as their feet touched the ground, the divine prohibition was activated, and everything within 1,000 miles was sealed. Yellow Spring. Jie Tiance narrowed his eyes and said, Time, Jiming Marquis. You want to take my life with this incomplete divine prohibition? It's too difficult. Saint, you're overthinking. These two prohibitions are just to prevent you from leaving. I'll give you the real gift now. As soon as he finished speaking, the two scrolls in Ning Chen's hands shot into the air. In the dazzling brilliance, heaven and earth rumbled, the stars sank, and the sun and moon moved in reverse. It was an indescribable power. The combination of light and chaos reproduced the scene of killing gods in 100 years. The two scrolls merged into one, and the light and chaos shocked the sky. In an instant, catastrophe befell all the planets within hundreds of thousands of miles. The two scrolls messed up yin and yang, and countless creatures exploded instantly. Blood, chi, and resentment soared into the sky, piercing through the starry sky. It was a shocking scene. In the starry sky, blood clouds pressed down, and the light and chaos scrolls pressed down with the resentment of all creatures. Endless blood light filled the world. This is. On the barren planet of life, Jie Tiance was shocked. He looked at the sky, and his face was full of shock. Today, everything will end completely. Ningchen shouted softly. He activated his martial arts, and his peerless foundation was no longer reserved. The three of them merged, and their aura spread through the universe. The chaotic brilliance soared into the sky. The phoenix, demon, and human bodies merged into one. The first person to step on deities since ancient times finally showed all his strength. In the spreading blood mist, a peerless divine weapon fell from the sky. The green and red sword was reforged by the origin of the divine tree. The man and the sword became one, and they were born together. The divine sword appeared, and streaks of blood-red patterns spread out, penetrating into knowing destiny's arm. In an instant, the powerful sword pressure spread out, and the heaven and earth trembled. The natal sword appeared, and gods and demons were frightened. In the black flame, the fairy-slaying sword appeared, and the appearance of the king of sickness could make all creatures go crazy. Cold heart, cold eyes, and calm. Knowing destiny no longer held back. He called out the two divine swords at the same time. Evil chi entered his body, and his blood hair became crazy. The unsuppressible sound of killing pierced through the heaven and earth, and aroused the endless killing intent in knowing destiny's heart. Under the dancing blood hair, the wind and snow filled the sky. The white-clothed figure disappeared instantly, and the killing began. The great battle began. In the distance, many figures rushed over, and they all looked anxious. However, the starry sky was vast, and they couldn't make it in time. Thousands of miles away, the void rolled, and a figure in a silver-gray cloak walked out. He looked at the battle in the distance, and his face was full of emotions. Knowing destiny, Marquis was no doubt a powerful cultivator. He was determined and wouldn't be shaken by any setbacks or hardships. He gave enough respect to this person, but a businessman had his own principles. In front of benefits, he wouldn't back down even half a step. On the barren vast planet, the battle began. The white-clothed figure swept past quickly, and the two swords slashed down with power that could split the sky. You don't know what's good for you, Jie Tiance snorted. He clenched his hands, and the black and white chess swords appeared. He used the mirror shooting technique to meet the two swords. With a boom, the four swords clashed. The terrifying aftermath spread out, and the entire vast planet shook violently. Thousands of miles of cracks appeared, and the mountains collapsed. In the most powerful battle, Jie Tiance's body was severely restricted by the resentment of all living beings. Every move of his was extremely heavy, as if he was under heavy pressure. On the other hand, knowing destiny fully activated his body, and the three bodies merged into one. He didn't hold back anymore, and his powerful combat power was fully displayed. 9 Heaven Star-Picking Hand, Burning Sun. When the four swords clashed, Ningchen loosened his sword and formed a palm. His heavy palms crisscrossed, and with a boom, he imprinted it on Jie Tiance's chest. The change happened without any warning. With a violent tremor, Jie Tiance took half a step back under the heaven-shattering palm. He couldn't suppress the shock in his eyes. Such a familiar move appeared in the hands of such a shocking person. Jie Tiance's heart was in turmoil, and he couldn't suppress it. You are the king of hell. The truth was so shocking that Jie Tiance steadied himself and said in shock. It's too late to know now. Before he finished speaking, Ningchen held his sword and dashed out again. The two swords swept out with thousands of sword waves. The power was earth-shattering, and the land within thousands of miles collapsed and rose up. The sword radiance clashed, and each sword was shocking. Every sword radiance was filled with murderous intent. He released his knowing destiny cultivation. His martial spirit shone under the night sky, illuminating the world as bright as day. It was difficult to look at him directly. Nirvana. 12 swords. The two swords clashed, and Nirvana and 12 swords appeared in the world at the same time. In an instant, the sword radiance that soared into the sky was like a flood. After a moment, it gathered into one, and it was earth-shattering. There was a loud explosion, and heaven and earth were in chaos. Jietians waved his sword to block it. Demonic chi condensed into a sword, and the supreme martial art of mirror shot reappeared. Art of mirror sky. All things returned to nothing. The four swords clashed, and the sky became one. Chaos shook the world, and in the destructive power, the withered star under the two collapsed. Thousands of miles of huge ravines crisscrossed, destroying everything. In the terrifying impact, two streaks of blood splashed out. Both sides were injured, and it was hard to tell who was the winner. You are in the third realm after all. Even if you can reach the level to fight with me, how long can your body last? Jietians shouted coldly. The two swords turned, and two huge sword radiances, one black and one white, soared into the sky. Unparalleled demonic power gathered from the starry sky, beyond the boundaries of heaven and earth, and shook the stars within thousands of miles. My sword, you can't measure it. No one could blaspheme the pride of the sword. Ningchen wielded the two swords with both hands. Yin and Yang soared into the sky, and the sun and moon roared together. The 100 suns burned the world, and the Yin and moon sealed the sky. The two extremes of Yin and Yang appeared in the world at the same time. It was difficult for the heaven and earth to bear the terrifying power of the sword. Huge spatial ravines appeared, and they were deep and dark, shocking people's minds. Knowing destiny. In the distance, figures rushed over. The cultivators from the inner realm and the underworld all looked shocked when they saw the familiar scene in front of them. Under the rolling blood clouds, the knowing destiny cultivator with the ultimate sword was as glorious as a god. He was the person closest to a god in the world, and he released the last sword of his life. Chapter 975. In the Ziwei star system, 100,000 miles away from the devil army, a sword shone brightly on a lifeless planet. The gods and devils were shocked. Yin, moon, and 100 suns appeared at the same time. Yin and Yang split the heavens and earth, and a destructive force descended. The collapsed planet suffered another calamity, and was completely destroyed. In the starry skies, rubble flew about in all directions. On the collapsed great star, a third sword appeared, rising and falling in the starry skies. Red light weaved about, and its might was incomparably majestic. 3 swords appeared at the same time, splitting the starry sky into 3. Outside the battlefield, the inner world experts who arrived were shocked. They wanted to go forward, but they were blocked by the divine restriction. You all are not allowed to go forward. Just as AI ran and the others wanted to forcefully break through the divine restriction, Mu Qingxue stepped forward and blocked them with his sword. He calmly said, "This is his choice." 10,000 miles away, the Dawn Moon Tower Master stood in the air and looked forward. Her calm expression contained a hint of seriousness. "Ji Ming Marquis, you have placed everything on the line for this battle. You cannot lose." 10,000 miles away, the 3 sinners of the Devil Palace quickly passed by. They felt the tremors in the distance and moved forward with all their might. Boom! Inside the divine restriction, earth-shattering sounds of battle could be heard. Bright and chaotic lights went against the heavens and earth, burying all living beings. Resentment filled the sky and suppressed the devil cultivator's cultivation. However, the power of the mortal world could not be matched by the 4th realm. The resentment of all living beings was rapidly consumed, and the time it could last became shorter and shorter. Sword technique, 3 lights shine together. In an instant, 3 figures appeared at the same time. 3 sharp sword lights broke through the sky. They were so dazzling that no one dared to look directly at them. After one sword, the 3 figures merged back into one. Black flames filled the sky as they passed by. Yama's third watch, reincarnation hell. Black flames burned the mortal world. Reincarnation appeared in hell. Shocking comprehension of the sword. Domain opened, and evil spirits awakened dreams. Jie Tiance raised his 2 swords and blocked the 3 sword lights. The mirror technique appeared once again. The 2 swords slashed through the sky. The sword slashed through hell and collided with reincarnation. Huge black vortexes collapsed, and sword lights scattered in all directions. Yama's third watch, Avicii heaven wails. In the blink of an eye, the sickly king disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind the demonic cultivator. His sword pierced through the air, mercilessly taking his life. Jie Tiance was shocked. He regained his senses and wanted to block the sword. However, he saw the trapping celestial in knowing destiny's hands. The 2 swords did not stop and slashed down. The white sword blocked the 2 edges, the black sword shook the sick king. An intense vibration sounded. Sword energy passed through, blood gushing out, scattering into the starry skies. Jie Tiance's brocade coat was dyed red. He took 3 steps back, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. He was injured for the first time since the battle started. One sword gained the upper hand, but Bai Yi's figure did not stop at all. Trapping immortals floated in the air. The ill king entered her hand. The 2 swords reincarnated, growing and multiplying without end. A knowing destiny state expert who had fully activated his body, and Swordwell was as fierce as a god. Even someone as strong as the Saint of the Devil Palace was gradually at a disadvantage under the suppression of his body. Jiming Marquis. The anger on Jie Tiance's face grew thicker and thicker. His 2 swords soared into the air and transformed into a ferocious flood dragon. His sword and fingers were parallel to each other as they collided with the divine blade. With a loud bang, the evil dragon swallowed the sky. Knowing Destiny's hands were bleeding, but he refused to step back. He rushed forward and struck again. 12 moves of Lingxi, skylifting waterfall. With the heavy strike, the skylifting waterfall soared into the sky. The unique skill of the moon-worshipping clan appeared again. The Milky Way appeared in the 9 heavens, and the skylifting waterfall fell. It was a spectacular scene. With a muffled groan, Jie Tiance took several steps back. However, he resisted the skylifting palm with his physical body that was beyond the limits of the mortal world. He waved his 2 swords and fought back. The sword shone on her. In an instant, Sui moved quickly to avoid the brilliance of the 2 swords. When she regained her senses, she rushed forward again. Her sword cut through the stars, and the sun and the moon shone together. The thunderous sword light was dazzling. When Jie Tiance blocked the sword, the mirror shot out, but Suyi's figure disappeared again. She held the sword and the trapping celestial was in her hand. Red light filled the sky. Whoosh! The unstoppable divine sword cut through the armor, bringing out a dazzling waterfall of blood. When she regained her composure, she struck again. Blood fell like rain. Thousands of miles away, the Dawn Moon House Master looked at the battle in the distance that was gradually becoming clearer. Light flashed in her eyes. Without the suppression of cultivation, the Jiming Marquis combat power was truly terrifying. In the distance, Jian Er and the others who had rushed over from the inner realm were also shocked. They knew that the Jiming Marquis had been holding back his strength. However, no one expected the Jiming Marquis to be so powerful. In the starry sky, there was the sound of swaying chains. The heavens and earth felt it, and reflected the extreme power of the swords. After 100 moves, the mirror shot was broken again and again. The 3 swords were reincarnated. More and more wounds appeared on Jie Tiance's body. Facing the most powerful swords in the mortal world, he was at a complete disadvantage. The battle tilted. Jie Tiance looked at the blood clouds in the sky with a serious expression. He had to hold on a little longer. The resentment wouldn't last much longer. The battle had reached a critical point. Within the blood clouds, a slight cracking sound could be heard. Cracks appeared on the bright and chaotic twin scrolls. Suddenly, the blood clouds in the sky began to swirl rapidly, revealing the technique of dispersing. Not good. Outside the battle, the expressions of the inner realm cultivators changed. The suppression of the blood clouds on the saint of the demonic palace was about to reach its limit. Inside the divine restriction, Ningchen looked up at the sky and then withdrew his gaze. He took a step and soared into the sky. 6 Downfall, myriad demonic tribulations, grand forbidden sword. The forbidden sword appeared and sword energy gathered from all directions. A terrifying sword pressure swept out in all directions. The starry sky shook and distorted violently. The flaw of this move is when you're preparing your move, you're bound to lose this battle. As he spoke, Jie Tian's figure flashed past. He arrived above the starry sky and slashed at the figure within the 10,000 swords. Just as the sword energy was about to touch the figure, the white-clothed figure suddenly disappeared from the 10,000 swords. The extremely fast figure forcibly broke free from the swords and condensed his origin energy into a palm. Ugh! When the palm landed, Jie Tian let out a muffled groan. He quickly fell from the sky and smashed meteors one after another. His momentum didn't stop. In the starry sky, Ning Chen's figure flashed by. The 10,000 swords followed him at an extreme speed. In front of the collapsing meteors, the white-clothed figure was one step ahead of him. The 10,000 swords gathered and condensed into one. As the sword slashed past, the starry sky split apart. Countless meteors were completely devoured by the sword energy. The shocking power surpassed the limit and vaguely cut open a natural chasm that humans couldn't cross. The divine sword slashed the demonic tribulations. The majestic sword energy descended suddenly. The sword was so terrifying that even gods and demons were shocked. It was so dazzling that it cut open the darkness and illuminated the human world. With a loud rumble, the sword energy slashed past the demonic tribulations. A waterfall of blood bloomed and dyed the starry sky red. With a deafening vibration, the demonic tribulations smashed onto a huge star. The huge star collapsed with the sound and debris flew everywhere. It was a shocking scene. Above the 9 heavens, the blood clouds dispersed rapidly. They had reached their limit. The battle against the demonic tribulations had reached the most critical moment. Every second was precious. In the starry sky, the white-clothed figure took a step in the sky. Her body was like a bolt of lightning as she rushed past. Her speed was frightening. Her combat power and sword will were fully activated. Her body shone brightly as if a martial god had descended. She was so dazzling that all the strong cultivators in the starry sky looked at her. Outside the battle, the 3 sins of the demonic palace rushed over. They were getting faster and faster. Feeling that the Saint Arbiter was completely suppressed, their eyes were filled with shock. Thousands of miles away, the Dawn Moon Tower Master looked over and saw the 3 sects rushing over. She finally moved and walked forward step by step. What followed would be considered as the interest of this deal. Silver light shone brightly. An ancient and heavy divine weapon appeared. The underworld divine spear had reappeared in the human world. The Dawn Moon Tower Master blocked the path with the spear. The silver-gray cloak fluttered in the wind. She blocked the path alone, and did not allow the 3 sects to take half a step forward. Dawn Moon Tower Master, you. Seeing the man blocking their path, the 3 sects stopped. Their faces darkened. It was actually him. The 3 of you, please wait for a moment. The Dawn Moon Tower Master looked at the 3 people in front of her and said lightly. The battle in the distance was urgent. The 3 sects did not waste any more time. They rushed forward and attacked with all their might. Outside the divine restriction, Mu Qianshang, Jian Er, and the others also felt the people coming from afar. Their cold eyes were filled with murderous intent. Everyone, since we can't help Ji Ming here, let's help him solve some of his worries. Mu Qianshang said coldly. He raised his hand and took off the evil face mask. Since they were going to solve everything in this battle, there was no need for them to hide anymore. Behind him, Jian Er, Luo Xingchen, and the others also took off their masks. Their figures flashed and rushed to the battlefield. Inside the divine restriction, Ningchen did not care about what was happening outside. He focused on killing the demons. The dispersing blood clouds indicated that the resentment of the masses was about to dissipate. The Saint Arbiter of the demonic palace escaped from the shattered stars. Before she could react, the white-clothed figure came again. It was so fast that she could not react in time. Star Picking Hand's final move, inverse move. With a bang, a heavy palm landed on Jietian's body. It was the Qilin's ultimate move. Jietian felt his chest sink. He vomited a mouthful of blood and was sent flying again. In the starry sky, the blood clouds finally dispersed. After smashing stars one after another, Jietian stopped and barely stabilized himself. Jiming Marquis, you're finished. The resentment of the masses disappeared, and the suppression was no longer there. Jietian felt the power gradually returning around him. He looked up to the sky and laughed crazily and violently. Ningchen glanced at the disappearing blood clouds and the bright chaos twin scroll. His expression did not change. He retracted his gaze and quickly flew forward. Heaven and earth chime, life and death defying fate. The two swords split the heaven and earth. In an instant, the two divine weapons turned into a rainbow and intertwined. The boundless sword light rushed to the sky and slashed at the demonic cultivator in front. The two swords were drawn. The white-clothed figure who was flying past quickly grabbed the air with her right hand. In the starry sky, the trapping celestial flew past. The moment she grabbed it, a red light shone. Jietian waved his sword to block the two weapons. However, the aura around him stagnated. His body showed signs of dissipating. How can this be? Before he could react, his throat was slit by the sword. Blood gushed out and dyed the stars red. Jietian looked back. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Ah! In an extremely painful cry, the demonic aura around Jietian's body rapidly dispersed. The moment his body collapsed, a familiar and powerful aura quickly recovered. It was the master of the demonic palace who was reborn in a body and counterattacked the conspirator. Saint Priest, you've schemed your whole life. In the end, you're still one step behind. In the midst of the voice, the demonic aura in the sky surged wildly. An illusory figure appeared. It was extremely powerful and suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In the starry sky, Ningchen looked at the master of the demonic palace who had reappeared. His expression did not change. He did not say a word and quickly flew forward. Chapter 976. In the starry sky, the demon palace master, who was supposed to be dead, returned to the human world and attacked the conspirators. The shocking battle began again. 3 swords moved, and light flashed, resonating with the heavens. The demonic palm caught the swords, and a tremor shook the universe. Endless sword intent spread in all directions, and the sword light cut through the void. Jiming Marquis, your ability has impressed me. However, you should have used up all your trump cards in the battle just now. Do you still have the strength to resist? The demon lord stood in the void and said coldly as he dodged the sword light one after another. You will know whether I have the strength or not after we fight. Ningchen replied coldly. His aura condensed, and countless sword lights circled around him. He was like a sword immortal descending to the human world. Just as the battle began again, the 9 kings of hell surrounded the sun, moon, and star sects in the distance. Without the identity of kings of hell, Jian Er and the others went all out. They no longer needed to hide their moves. As they moved, it was as if they had been reborn. Facing the continuous attacks of the 9 kings of hell, the sun, moon, and star sects felt more and more pressure. They didn't dare to be careless and focused on dealing with it. 6 Ye Forbidden World, Evil Spirits Open. Outside the battle, Wu Qingying waved her hand and summoned the 6 Yi Karmas. A huge red Guqin appeared, and the Guqin's aura surged. Her slender fingers plucked, and a destructive Guqin sound spread out. The sound surged, and in the battle, the 3 sects were immediately affected. There were few pauses in their moves. Thunder Bestowment. Divine Punishment. In front of the Dark Universe sect, Yin-Er and Luofei worked together. The power of the heavenly language and the power of the gods worked together. In an instant, thunder rumbled, and a worldly sacred sword appeared. Its power was majestic, and it was close to the legendary 4th level. The worldly sacred sword Demon Slayer fell from the sky. In the violent tremor, the head of the 3 sects, who had always been invincible, was at a disadvantage. Extraordinary woman. In the middle of the 3 battles, the Dawn Moon House Master looked at the battle not far away. and a strange expression flashed across her face. A moment later, she flipped her left hand, and a demonic eye appeared in the surging demonic chi. Its shocking might rose rapidly. In the battle, the three sects felt it, and their expressions changed. Now, I will let you experience the power of the royal demonic eye. The Dawn Moon brothel mistress activated her Zhen Yuan, and the treasure refined by the royal demonic eye appeared for the first time. It was a shocking scene, and a terrifying dim light broke through the sky. The destructive power destroyed everything in its path, splitting the sky and falling stars. A painful grunt rang out. The power of the fourth tier was unstoppable. Wherever the dim light passed, the divine sun collapsed. The dim light that passed through the body brought with it a brilliant spray of blood. It was bleak and dazzling. To the end to be. An opportunity appeared. Einer's eyes suddenly opened, and 2 drops of blood flowed down. In an instant, heaven and earth changed. The heavens were angry and judged the world. The furious lightning that came crashing down drowned the starry sky and destroyed everything. A huge spatial crack appeared and quickly spread in a crazy manner. On the other 2 sides of the battle, the Star Brilliance sect and the Moon Illumination sect's faces changed drastically. They looked into the distance, their eyes bulging. Today we have already blocked everything. We will not give you any more chances. In front of Xing Huizong, Mu Qianshang Sword 2 and Yishuan Miao worked together. Their completely different swords formed the ultimate martial art of the sword, the path of the demon annihilator. They had cultivated in the forbidden lands of Chongling for many years, and used their future as the price to quickly increase their strength. Sword 2, Mu Qianshang, and the others had reached the most glorious moment of their lives. Even as strong as the Demon Palace and Sin sect felt great pressure. So the Nether King barrier has been broken. In the divine restriction, the Demon Master swept his gaze across the distant battle, and said coldly, the identity of the knowing destiny Marquis was no longer a secret, and these unfamiliar experts were not unfamiliar in the memories of Butterfly and the Flower. If 1 or 2 of them appeared, it might be a coincidence. But for so many experts to appear together, there was only one answer. The Nether King barrier that had always blocked the inner and outer worlds no longer existed. It is too late to know now. Today, no one from the Demon Palace can leave here alive. Ningchen looked at the master of the Demon Palace, and said coldly, in 1,000 years, you are the first person who dares to say such words to this seat. I admire your courage, but courage is never equal to strength. Your defeat is today. In the stirring demonic energy, the Demon Master looked at the Heaven Speaker in the distance and said, Holy glory, come back. With these words, the world changed. In the distant battle, the demonic artifact in Einer's hand that had been refined started to hum furiously, responding to its master's summons. Seeing this, Einer's expression changed slightly. She raised her hand to activate the power of the world, to suppress the first divine artifact of the Demon Palace. Little girl, you have done very well, but you cannot hold the seat's item. As he spoke in the divine restriction, the Demon Master suddenly clenched his right hand. In the sky, an enormous demon image appeared, its demonic energy shocking the world and shaking the stars. Divine Scroll, Heavenly Celestial Dance. Close at hand, the heavenly book opened again. Ningchen raised his palm, and the 9 heavenly stars appeared. They immediately fell from the sky, drowning the 2 figures. In the terrifying sound of collision, the stars collapsed, and a power comparable to the explosion of stars erupted. The aftermath was crazy, and the 2 figures were both pushed back a few hundred feet. Blood stained the starry sky. No wonder they wanted you to fight. With your strength, I am willing to call you the strongest under the 4 realms. The Demon Master raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said in a deep voice. Opposite him, in the turbulent starry sky, Bai Yi's figure stood in the air. The hands holding the sword were stained with blood. However, the battle intent on her body was even more shocking. The 2 swords hummed lightly. In the final battle of swords, she bloomed her last glory. Demon Master, it's time to end everything. The accumulated injuries were gradually eating away at the swordsman's body. Ningchen was unmoved. With a long roar, he released the last of his strength in this life. Seeing this, the demon master's expression suddenly changed. Not right. Ha! With a deep roar, Ningchen forcefully destroyed the power of the 6 scrolls in his body and condensed the last remaining power of the bright chaos twin scrolls. Suddenly, 8 scrolls appeared at the same time. In the incomparably vigorous chaotic aura, the scene of creation reappeared in the world. The phoenix spread its wings and evolved into the travel scroll. The celestial technique hummed and mended the moon scroll. Chaos of gods. Travel of sun and moon. Lifeless heaven and earth. The last move was unprecedentedly terrifying. In the shocked eyes of the crowd, between heaven and earth, an incomparably bright light shot up into the sky. In an instant, it broke through the limits of heaven and earth and reached the 4 realms. In the distance, the mistress of the Dawn Moon brothel turned her head to look at this earth-shattering scene. A strange light flashed in her eyes. Even though it was only for a short moment, the Marquis Ming's brilliance would forever be remembered in this world. In the divine prohibition, in the soaring light, Ningchen stood in the air. His aura gradually calmed down. The darkness in his eyes dissipated, and his blood-red hair gradually returned to white. Demon Master, your footsteps will be stopped by that young man in the end. In this world he is the one closest to God. Not long ago, the last words of the moon goddess before her death were still vivid in his ears. The demon master looked at the young man in front of him who had reached the 4 realms for a short period of time. He could not hide the shock in his eyes. 10 scrolls of the heavenly tomes. There was actually someone in the world who had cultivated all 10 scrolls of the heavenly tomes. Under the chaotic starry sky, Ningchen raised the natal sword in his hand. He displayed everything he had learned in his life without any regrets. Final move, no return. The final move, the sword of no return. The sword fell from the sky and swallowed all the light of heaven and earth. The divine prohibition around also collapsed, unable to withstand the shocking sword will that surpassed everything. 10 scrolls appeared at the same time. The final sword of no return. The everlasting legend of the sword of no return reappeared in the world today. The sword light fell. The demon master's face was filled with shock. He quickly retreated. However, he was heavily injured and his cultivation was not at its peak. Before the final sword of no return, there was no way to retreat. In a painful and fearful groan, the sword light fell and cut off the demon chi, the demon palm, and the demon armor. In the end, the sword broke the demon body and destroyed the demon soul. After the sword, in the starry sky, the sword will around Ningchen quickly dispersed. The celestial sword returned, and the natal sword also dimmed. There was no longer any light. The final sword of no return bloomed. From now on, the sword was sealed in the scabbard, and the sword of no return buried his name. Chapter 977. In the starry sky, the demon slayer battle ended and the divine restriction dissipated. Knowing destiny's sword intent also dissipated and couldn't be sensed anymore. The swordsman kept his sword and left his last glory in the world forever. In the distant battlefield, the moment the demon slayer battle ended, a majestic sword intent rose around the Dawn Moon Tower master, shocking the world and shocking the world. The sword intent changed hands and from then on, the swordsman sealed his sword and the Dawn Moon Tower appeared. In the battlefield, the 9 Yama Kings felt the familiar and powerful sword intent from the Dawn Moon Tower master, and were shocked. What's going on? What happened? Sword technique Tai. The waning moon house mistress gathered her chi with her fingers. Suddenly, a surge of sword will shot into the sky between heaven and earth. The Tai sword appeared, causing the entire starry sky to shake. In the next moment, Miao Yuzong couldn't react in time, and was quickly swallowed by the dazzling sword light. His flesh cracked and his blood dyed the starry sky red. It was a shocking scene. Not only the 3 sects, even the Yama Kings of the underworld couldn't recover from the shock. They couldn't understand what happened. On the other side, Mu Qingxue looked at the silhouette in the divine restriction in the distance and his beautiful eyes dimmed. His sword disappeared. In the divine restriction, Ningchen turned around and waved his hand to disperse the divine restriction that was almost destroyed. He walked forward step by step. Knowing destiny, Marquis. Looking at the young figure in front of them, the Starlight Sect and Moon Sect's faces were filled with hatred. They were distracted for a moment, and their sword light flashed, bringing out a waterfall of blood. Kill him, Ningchen said calmly. In the battlefield, the 9 Yama Kings nodded and attacked even more fiercely. They were like a storm to kill the last demon. After Miaoyu died, the Dawn Moon Tower Master stopped and walked forward. Looking at the figure in front of her, she said, "Knowing destiny, see you later." "See you later." Ningchen nodded and replied, "Thank you for your help this time, Tower Master." "It's a fair deal. Brother Ning, you don't have to thank me," the Dawn Moon Brothel's master replied, and left without saying anything else. In the battle, the 9 Yama Kings joined forces. The female supreme and Wu Qingying assisted them. The battle was one-sided. Although the two sects were strong, they gradually found it difficult to withstand the attacks of so many experts. In the distance, Mu Qingshua's figure flashed and came to his side. He handed over the holy glory and said softly, "I'll have to trouble you again." Ningchen took the demonic palace's sacred artifact. Phoenix flames rose from his body as he refined it again. In the battle ahead, sword light and demonic energy crisscrossed, and blood splattered everywhere. The demonic calamity that had plagued many regions was finally resolved today. Sword light streaked past, sealing their throats and taking their lives. With one last glance, the two sects looked at the plain-clothed young man in the distance with unwillingness. Their hatred was still hard to dispel. "Let's go. It's over. We should go back." After the battle ended, Ningchen said softly and walked forward. In the starry sky, the Yama Kings of the 9 halls nodded in unison. They didn't say anything else as they followed along. They had done everything they could to deal with the demonic calamity. The remaining matters would be left to the various regions to deal with. In the starry sky that was riddled with holes, the people of the underworld left. It was like the end of an era. Gradually they disappeared. A few days later, in the Red Luan, All Heavens, Ziwei, Spirit Void, and other regions, countless sects gradually discovered the abnormality of the demonic palace's army. The Saint of the Demonic Palace and the 3 Sins sect that had been pressing down on them like 4 mountains seemed to have disappeared. From the initial suspicion to the later confirmation, the sects were all overjoyed and fought back crazily. In an instant, the flames of war were everywhere in the major regions. Without their strongest cultivators, the demonic palace's army was defeated again and again. They had no chance to fight back. In the Ziwei Galaxy, in the underworld's 10 halls, in front of the King Yanlua's palace, Ningchen stood there quietly looking at Yin, who was learning swordsmanship from Mu Qingxue. His face was calm and peaceful. Not far away, Jian walked over. Looking at the figure in front of the King Yanlua's palace, he said, "Ji Ming, I have something to tell you." Ningchen turned around and looked at the man beside him. "What is it?" "The matter here is over. I would like to return to the Divine Land," Jian said with a nostalgic expression. "Okay." Ningchen nodded. "It's my duty. We'll meet again. We'll meet again." The final farewell was simple and calm. With that, Jian did not waste any more time. His figure flashed, and he flew out of the underworld. In front of him, Mu Qingxue looked back. Looking at the figure in front of the King Yanlua's palace, he said, "Senior brother has left?" "Yes." Ningchen nodded. "He has returned to the Divine Land." Hearing this, Mu Qingxue nodded slightly and did not ask any more questions. Over the years, they had been through too many troubles and did not have time to go back. Now that the matter was over, it was indeed time to go back. "Master's wife, I finished practicing." After practicing for a long time, Iner put away her sword and ran forward. "Okay." Mu Qingxue came back to his senses and nodded. "Go and play. Don't run too far." Hearing this, Iner's face lit up. She disappeared in a flash. "You still can't pick up your sword?" Mu Qingxue walked forward and asked. Ningchen shook his head and said, "Without the sword bone, it is almost impossible to cultivate back to the original upper Dao of the sword. The price of this transaction is too high." Mu Qingxue sighed softly. Although the price is high, it is worth it. Ningchen smiled and said, if I can never pick up a sword again in this life, it is not unacceptable to exchange for peace in the inner world. The inner world was the place where his life began. There were too many people and memories that he cherished. He could not let it be destroyed by the flames of war. I will keep my promise and help you find your sword, no matter how long it takes. Mu Qingxue looked over and said softly to the man beside him. Ningchen smiled and said, Qingxue, you don't have to be so stubborn. The situation is already very good. Perhaps I don't need to pick up a sword again in this life. There is no need to work so hard to cultivate it back. Mu Qingxue fell silent. A swordsman could not pick up a sword. The bitterness of not being able to pick up a sword was not as simple as what he said. Oh right, how is AI Ran going to rebuild the Buddhist kingdom? Ningchen looked into the distance and asked. The Buddhist kingdom was affected the most by the chaos of the demon palace. AI Ran has tried her best to find the disciples of the Buddhist kingdom. However, there is still a long way to go to rebuild the Buddhist kingdom. Mu Qingxue said softly. There is nothing in this world that is difficult for those who set their mind to it. Ningchen smiled and said, rebuilding the Buddhist kingdom is a great merit. As long as AI Ran succeeds, it will be very beneficial for her to reach the fourth realm in the future. She is the Buddhist daughter. She is the most suitable person to do this. You have arranged everyone's path. Have you not thought about your own future? Mu Qingxue sighed softly. Future. Hearing this word, Ningchen's eyes lit up and said, indeed, I have not thought about it. I still have one more thing to do. Only when this matter is finished can I truly be at ease. The ghost girl? Mu Qingxue asked softly. Yes. Ningchen replied softly and said, when the ghost girl was revived, her situation was not normal. I have been searching for her all these years. However, I have not found anything. The Immortal Corpses Patrol is mysterious. Now that the ghost girl has been taken away by the Immortal Corpses, it will not be easy to find her. Mu Qingxue said. Where there is a will, there is a way. All these years, which of the things we have done have been easy? After speaking, Ningchen looked towards the main hall not far away and said, all right, I'll go check on Senior Sister Dai. Her Majesty is trying to think of a way to dispel her unnecessary memories. I'll go and see if there's anything I can help with. In front of the Imperial Palace, Mu Qingxue looked at the back of Yi Chen as he left. A hint of emotion flashed across his beautiful face. Yi Chen's strength and wisdom made everyone unconsciously rely on him. Unknowingly, this brought him more pressure. He hoped that everything would end here, and there would not be any new disturbances. Not far away from the Imperial Palace, a faint brilliance rose up and filled the entire palace. An aura that made people's hearts palpitate circulated. It was so oppressive that it made people unable to breathe. Ningchen walked in and looked at the female supreme who was erasing Butterfly's memories. His expression turned serious. The 9 Serenities heaven-devouring demon scripture was the #1 demonic technique in the world. Although it was very powerful, its weakness was very obvious. When the user devoured other people's origin, they would also be affected by other people's memories. In the long run, it was very likely that they would lose themselves. Senior Sister Dai's memories had been erased by the Saint of the Demon Palace. Being affected by other people's memories would be very serious. Therefore, the best way was to erase all of these memories and then find a way to restore Senior Sister Dai's memories. In the palace, the female supreme's body emitted a faint light. The 9 Serenities demonic technique combined with the soul-searching technique forcefully erased the chaotic memories in Butterfly's consciousness. Time slowly passed. After about half an hour, the female supreme stopped and let out a sigh of relief. She looked at the young man who was waiting in the palace and said, "Don't worry, she is fine." Hearing this, Ning Chen's anxious heart was slightly relieved. He said seriously, "Thank you, female supreme. It is what I should do." The female supreme shook her head and said, "There are too many memory fragments in Butterfly's body. It will take some time to erase them all. Don't be impatient." Ning Chen nodded and said, "I will have to trouble female supreme. If you need my help, just let me know." "I don't need it for now. If, the female supreme replied. Before she could finish, an earth-shattering tremor resounded between heaven and earth. It was so terrifying that the entire underworld continent shook violently. Almost at the same time, the huge stars in the major star fields shook. A few stars couldn't bear the terrifying impact and deviated from their orbits, crashing into other huge stars. An indescribably terrifying disaster instantly affected the major star fields. In just a blink of an eye, countless living beings were killed or injured. In the palace, feeling the shocking tremor, Ningchen turned around and walked to the front of the palace. He looked at the distant starry sky and frowned slightly. What happened this time? Not far away, Mu Qingshua's figure flashed and came to the front of the palace. He said, "I will go and take a look." "Let's go together," Ningchen replied and walked towards the outside of the divine forbidden ground. Beside him, Mu Qingxua followed and walked out of the underworld together. In the distant starry sky, in the red phoenix star field, a huge crack opened in the fog of the star field. Terrifying figures walked out one after another. There were more than 10 of them. Their cultivation was not below the demon masters. Their auras were so terrifying that it made people tremble. After countless years, the source of the disaster that was sealed by the Queen Mother of the West came to the world again. It was the real apocalypse. The entire starry sky cried out in sorrow. Chapter 978. In the Red Phoenix Galaxy, at the end of the collapsed Western Celestial Realm, a huge spatial crack appeared. A dozen figures with terrifying auras walked out. As soon as they appeared, heaven and earth wailed, and the starry sky shook violently. In front of the spatial crack, Di Mingtian, who was dressed in silver, stood quietly. He looked at the figures walking out in front of him. His calm expression revealed the majesty of a superior. "Your Highness." The royal family cultivators bowed and greeted respectfully. "Where's father? He didn't come?" Di Mingtian looked at the leader of the group, a man in purple, and asked. "Your Highness, the king asked us to leave first. After dealing with the matters at hand he will come." The man in purple replied respectfully. "Are those people from the divine capital mountain restless again?" Di Mingtian frowned. The man in purple nodded and said, "The divine capital mountain has always been at odds with our clan. This time, the king wants to deal with his worries before coming here." Di Mingtian had heard this before. He nodded slightly and said, "That's fine too." "Your Highness, how strong are the cultivators in this realm? Are there any kings?" The man in purple asked. Di Mingtian shook his head and said, "No. The only fourth realm cultivator died in battle. So your mission is very clear. Before the other major clans react, try your best to occupy as much land and resources as possible for our clan." "Yes, Your Highness," the man in purple said respectfully. While the Red Luan Star Zone was undergoing great changes, the experts of the True Realm and above in the various star zones all sensed a distant pressure from the depths of their souls, causing them to pale in fear. Fourth Realm cultivators, and there was more than one. How could this be? Outside the underworld in Ziwei, Ningchen looked into the distance. He also felt the abnormally powerful auras, and his expression darkened. So many Fourth Realm cultivators appeared at once. What happened? Knowing destiny. Below, the Yama Kings flew out and asked seriously, "What's going on?" "I'm not sure." Ningchen shook his head and said, "I'm afraid a great disaster is about to happen." "Indeed, one wave after another," Yi Zichen said. Niu Chang's expression turned serious. Where did the auras of so many Fourth Realm cultivators come from? "Stay here. I'll go back to the inner realm," Ningchen said seriously. Ningchen said in a serious tone. He didn't delay any longer and rushed toward the inner realm. At the same time, on the altar in the Reverence Moon Clan's ancient land, the phoenix body looked at the shaking sky with a solemn expression. It was truly an eventful time. The demonic calamity had just ended, and an even greater calamity had appeared. High Priest. Below the altar, the members of the Moon Worship clan looked worried. They had never seen such a shocking earthquake before. Without a doubt, something big was about to happen in the human world. I'll go take a look. On the altar, the phoenix body calmly spoke. The phoenix spread its wings and soared into the sky. In the inner realm, the 5 regions floated up and down. The vast and boundless land nourished this small world created by the gods. In the divine prefecture of the eastern region, a new barren city was built on the barren city that had been destroyed in the divine tribulation. On this day, the swordsman in white walked over. His sword will was restrained. He had returned after 100 years. Second senior brother. Jian-san, who had been standing guard in Desolate City, cried out involuntarily when he saw the newcomer. Take a picture. Jian-er stepped forward and looked at his junior brother who had changed both in terms of aura and appearance. He sighed with emotion. Beside the sword pool, there were 2 eye-catching tombstones. One was the sword of Desolate City, and the other was the most outstanding disciple of Desolate City. After 100 years, many people still remembered the peerless demeanor of the swordsman in the past. Master. Jian-er silently knelt in front of Mubai's tomb. He had been proud all his life, but at this moment he couldn't help but cry. He had been obsessed with the sword all his life. However, the sword was emotionless, but people were sentimental. The great calamity of the divine prefecture had brought too many disasters. Many things had become regrets. The cold night was bleak, and the autumn wind was bleak. The white-robed man kneeling under the moonlight was just like the master and disciple who shocked the world 100 years ago. Their white robes were whiter than snow, stunning the world. At this moment, above the 5 regions, an extremely powerful pressure swept down without warning. It was so terrifying that it made people's hearts tremble. In the 5 regions, the Xiantian and ascending immortals felt it. Their bodies trembled as they looked at the sky. Their hearts were in turmoil. It was as if the gods had descended from the sky. The aura of the gray-robed old man was extremely powerful. It surpassed the limits of the human world, and reached the legendary 4th level. Tianqiong. The gray-robed old man looked to the east and murmured. Although it had been a long time, he could still feel the strong resentment left behind by Tianqiong before he died. He never thought that a mission would cause Tianqiong to stay in the King of Hell's Pure Land forever. The gray-robed old man didn't stop at all. He directly rushed to the divine land in the east. His speed was beyond imagination. Is it finally my turn? In the Desolation City, Jian-er felt the terrifying aura coming from the distance. His expression didn't change much. A person's life was long and short. As long as he had no regrets, it was enough. His master, senior brother, and knowing destiny had all done what they could. This time, it was his turn to protect this pure land. In the divine prefecture, the gray-robed figure flashed by. The terrifying pressure split mountains and rocks. The undisguised terrifying aura swept up waves of dust. Houses collapsed, mountains collapsed, and the earth cracked. The foreign races from other realms didn't care about the life and death of the humans in the inner realm. The hatred that had lasted for tens of thousands of years made this indifference even more murderous. In troubled times, the divine prefecture suffered another catastrophe. Demonic fire burned the earth and countless people died. Just at this moment in the Desolation City, a sharp sword energy broke through the air. Its power was heaven-shaking and shook the entire divine prefecture. Oh! When the gray-robed old man saw this, surprise flashed in his eyes. There was actually such an expert in the inner realm. Although his cultivation was barely satisfactory, this sword intent was indeed extraordinary. In an instant, the sky above the divine prefecture was filled with swords. Endless sword energy soared into the sky, forming a path of swords. A white-robed figure soared into the sky. His white robe fluttered in the wind, making him look like a sword immortal. No one dared to look directly at him. Swordsman, are you challenging me? The gray-robed old man looked at the white-robed young man, and asked indifferently. Why not? Jian-er clenched his right hand, and a broken sword flew out from the Desolation City into his hand. In an instant, the clouds moved and rays of sword energy slashed toward the old man from the foreign races. Young man who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The gray-robed old man raised his hand, and an incomparably powerful demonic aura surged out. It was extremely terrifying. The rays of sword energy shattered, unable to pass through the barrier. One sword. Jian swung his sword. Endless sword intent rose rapidly. The sword on the sword bloomed beautifully. 10,000 calamities. The peak of the sword in the past reappeared. The sword energy broke through the sky and cut through the demonic fire, bringing a faint light to the world. The two attacks collided, but cracks appeared on Jian broken sword. Blood splashed out. The swordsman retreated several steps. His white robe was dyed red. He was injured in one attack. Your sword can't stop your defeat. In the surging demonic aura, the gray-robed old man looked at the swordsman in front of him and sneered. Sword technique. In the void, Jian expression didn't change at all. He guided his vitality to protect his sword. His invisible sword energy soared into the sky. In an instant, the sword intent spread endlessly across the divine prefecture. Wherever the sword went, it became a world of swords. 10,000 swords greet the ancestor. When the sword reached the extreme, 10,000 swords surrendered. In the world of sword intent, rays of sword energy soared into the sky. 10,000 swords circled the sky and turned into a sword cloud storm, covering the cold moon in the sky. After an instant, tens of thousands of sword energy broke through the sky. The scene was shocking and shocked the entire divine prefecture. It was like the battle of the barren city in the past when the sword challenged the gods. Looking around, heaven and earth were swords. Endless sword intent and sword energy. Extreme path versus four realms. What was the limit of the sword? What was the peak of the Tao? In the flames of war, each of them displayed their top abilities. After several exchanges, the sword energy was 10,000. The gray-robed old man blocked the continuous sword energy. Although he had the absolute advantage, he didn't dare to be careless in the face of the swordsman's reckless attack. Sword technique. Slaying fairy. The blue was better than the blue. Jian pointed his finger at the sword. His blood energy condensed. In the dim light, an ancient stone sword appeared in the void. The legend of slaying fairy from the ancient times had come to the world again. Seeing this, the gray-robed old man's expression turned serious. He raised his hand and condensed his chi. The demonic aura in his body was fully activated. A giant demon figure appeared and punched down to meet the slaying fairy sword. Slaying fairy shook the demonic figure. Humans could fight immortals and demons. When thunder met, heaven and earth were moved. A pool of blood splashed and dyed the night red. The swordsman kept retreating. His white robe was dyed red. The irreversible difference in cultivation made this battle against the immortals even more tragic. Rip. Suddenly, there was a slight sound of clothes tearing. The clothes on the gray-robed old man's chest were torn. Blood splashed. He was injured for the first time. You are not bad. The gray-robed old man looked at the wound on his chest that was cut by the sword energy. A touch of appreciation flashed across his cold face. He said calmly, surrender, and I will spare your life. In the void, Jian didn't answer. He looked down at the barren city with an imperceptible smile on his face. Master, senior brother, this sword is a tribute to your teachings. One sword. Before the final sword was released, the sword intent had spread out rapidly. In an instant, heaven and earth sank. The whole divine prefecture shook violently. Rocks flew up and disappeared in the sky full of sword energy. The gray-robed old man felt it. He looked serious and didn't dare to hesitate. His figure flashed, and he condensed his chi and attacked Jian chest. With a boom, the heavy palm hit Jian body. Red blood splashed all over the sky. However, the swordsman's body didn't move. His sword intent rose to the peak of his life. No regrets. The final move was close at hand. The momentum was majestic. The dazzling golden sword light slashed down and cut all evil. The broken sword in Jian hand couldn't bear the magnificent sword intent, and quickly turned into ashes. The gray-robed old man's expression changed. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The sword light fell. It was dazzling. In the cold night, it was like a divine sun shining on the world. It broke through the darkness and brought endless light to the world. Jian. At this moment, a figure in plain clothes rushed over from afar. When she saw the shocking scene in front of her, her pupils shrank. Chapter 979. In the divine great land, the demon disaster had arrived. In the sky above Barren City, where the sword of Barren City had proven its swordsmanship in the past, the peak of the current generation of Barren City swordsmanship reappeared. The magnificent sword of Tao had broken the limit of the realm, shocking the world. At the end of the sword, there was no regret. The dazzling golden sword light slashed down. It was an incomparably brilliant sword that had reached the peak of swordsmanship in the world. Blood splashed everywhere. A terrifying sword wound appeared on the chest of the gray-clothed elder. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. It was extremely frightening. Ugh! The figure that flew out crashed into one mountain after another, causing the mountain rocks to shatter. Huge rocks fell like rain, smashing out huge craters. After the sword, the white-clothed figure fell from the sky powerlessly. He looked at the world for the last time with no regrets. Jian. In the distance, Ning Chen's pupils shrank. He flashed and caught the falling swordsman. His body couldn't help but tremble. "You're back." Feeling the familiar aura around him, Jian eyes flashed with relief. He could relax now that Jian was back. "Protect your heart. Don't talk." Ning Chen's body kept trembling. The life scroll was activated, forcibly entering Jian body to prolong his life. It's useless. At this moment, a trace of exhaustion flashed across Sword 2's weak face as he said, "Don't talk. Don't give up. We've gone through so many hardships. We'll be fine." Ning Chen's voice trembled. His body kept increasing. Suddenly, the wind and snow between heaven and earth rolled. A terrifying wind and snow vortex filled the sky above the divine great land. It was earth-shattering, shaking the stars. "Jiming, listen to me." Jian struggled to raise his hand, grabbing Jian arm. He used the last of his strength to say, "I can't continue my master and senior brother's swordsmanship. Cheng Shui uses the sword but doesn't cultivate it. She can't inherit Barren City's swordsmanship. But you're different. Although you're not a disciple of Barren City, you've learned swordsmanship from your master. Your swordsmanship is not weaker than anyone else's. So from now on, the glory of Barren City can only be protected by you. Don't talk anymore." Ning Chen's heart was in great pain. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. The true qi in his body kept leaking out. The body of a swordsman couldn't contain any more energy. "Jiming, your sword shouldn't be covered in dust." With a soft murmur, an indescribable sword intent rose around Jian and entered the bodies of the people around him. In the end, this was the only thing he could do for her. The powerless arm that fell down was stained with blood. The swordsman left his soul behind. From now on he would forever guard this pure land, never to rest until death. Ah! There was a short moment of silence in the sky. Then, a wild laughter that made one's heart palpitate resounded. The laughter was like muffled thunder, and lightning flashed. Violent wind and snow shot into the 9 heavens. In an instant, the heavens and the earth changed and thunder pierced through the 9 continents. In the distant mountains and rivers, the blood-soaked gray-robed elder soared into the air. The terrifying sword wound on his chest was so terrifying that fresh blood continuously flowed out, dyeing his entire body red. Even a Realm 4 expert, a legendary realm expert, was severely injured by the life-risking sword of Desolate City's current generation. The legend of Barren City had lasted for 100 years. 100 years ago, and 100 years after, it had never been disgraced. "You deserve to die 10,000 deaths." The gray-robed elder's face was filled with rage. His figure flashed past, and his demonic aura surged. A terrifying 3-headed demonic shadow appeared. The demonic aura gathered, and a shocking punch smashed down toward the 2 people in the wind and snow. In the wild wind and snow, a white-robed figure walked out. Her white hair danced wildly, and her eyes instantly turned black. Her eyes were like the abyss, and one look at them would make one sink into them. At this moment, dark clouds rapidly gathered in the 9 heavens. Layers of lightning fell with a loud boom. An abnormally terrifying power, along with a shocking destructive power, descended upon the human world. The moment the 2 bodies merged, the tribulation of the true realm descended with a thunderous rumble. Its boundless might surpassed all common sense, and it made everyone feel a bone-deep fear. With a bang, a palm met the demonic fist. An earth-shattering collision sounded. Wild waves surged around the two, and layers of space collapsed in response. In the next moment, lightning fell and engulfed the two bodies. The heavenly might destroyed the demonic. The two people in the middle of the tribulation were immediately affected by the heavenly tribulation, and they each took a few steps back. Not good. Within the lightning, the gray-robed elder's expression changed. With a flip of his palm, he blocked layer after layer of lightning. However, with each layer he blocked, the lightning's power became stronger. It was endless and shocking. Rumble. Heavenly lightning fell from the 9 heavens once more. The surging lightning instantly turned scarlet, and its power rose endlessly. Avicii Hell Palace! Ningchen shouted, and the ghost palace appeared, turning into a barrier to block his own tribulation. He took a step forward, and wind and snow swept up as he rushed forward. Below the lightning, the gray-robed elder miserably blocked another tribulation. Before he could react, the white-robed figure had already arrived in front of him. Spirit Rhino 12 Styles Heaven-Raising Waterfall. At such a close distance, a heavy palm pressed down on the elder's chest. In an instant, wind and snow filled the sky. An incomparably tyrannical power poured into the elder's body, forcibly destroying his bones. Ugh! With a muffled groan, the gray-robed elder retreated several steps. The heavenly tribulation had affected his body, and he was at a disadvantage. Rumble! The true realm's tribulation was endless. Above the 9 heavens, the blood-colored tribulation cloud changed again. It turned from red to black, and the heavy aura made it hard for people to breathe. In the world of darkness, lightning descended, and the power to destroy all living things tore apart the heaven and earth. The gray-robed elder's expression changed drastically. He raised both of his palms to block the lightning. With a world-shaking vibration, the lightning pierced through the protection of the demonic chi and landed on his body. Heaven's wrath shocked the world, and gods and demons grieved. The gray-robed elder groaned painfully. Blood boiled all over his body, unable to withstand the destructive might of the lightning. On the other side, the black lightning descended, and the Avicii Hell Palace cried out continuously. Just as the ghost palace was about to collapse, a broken green cauldron appeared and blocked the lightning. Below, Ningchen condensed his martial body and activated the 5 scrolls at the same time. His powerful martial soul was like a dazzling radiance. In the vision of destruction and creation, his figure flashed past, and his heavy palm pressed down on the elder's chest. After receiving another heavy blow, blood dyed the night sky. The gray-robed elder retreated again and again. His true chi was in chaos. This was the first time in countless years that he felt so close to death. Above Ningchen's head, the celestial cauldron blocked the heavenly tribulation. His white hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were like an abyss. His demonic and crazy demeanor made people shudder. In an instant, the white-robed figure disappeared again. Fist after fist landed on the elder's body. The life-knowing destiny state burned with hatred. For the revenge of his close friend, he sacrificed himself and turned into a demon. With the demon as the leader, he slaughtered. The heavy fists landed on the elder's body, and blood splattered everywhere. The gray-robed elder took one heavy blow after another. He was forced to retreat, and the heavenly tribulation surrounded him. He was at a complete disadvantage. At this moment, outside the 5 regions, figures arrived one after another. Their auras were terrifying, and none of them were weaker than the gray-robed elder. They looked toward the east with strange expressions. There was actually such a strong cultivator in the inner realm. Although he had the help of the heavenly tribulation, he was the first person in the world who could suppress a 4th realm cultivator. Do you want to help? A demonic man with long green hair asked. Among the 5, the man in purple shook his head and said, "We can't defile the heavens. If we help now, we will only get burned. It's not worth it. But if this continues, we too will very likely die in the hands of that young man." The green-haired man said coldly. The man in purple looked ahead quietly. After a while he said lightly, "Then let's wait for that young man's heavenly tribulation to end and send him to accompany Li Tuesday. Just as the two of them were conversing, in the night sky above the divine lands that was engulfed by black thunderbolts, the injuries on the gray-robed elder were getting more and more severe. The heavenly tribulation struck his body, and his heavy fists bombarded him. The power of man and the might of the heavens caused the powerful fourth realm cultivator to be in a sorry state. In the heavenly tribulation, layers of sword intent rose around the white-robed young man. Although it was very weak, it was clearly manifested. Before he died, the last sword of the barren city injected all his sword bones, sword intent, sword aura, and sword sense into the body of the life-knowing destiny state, giving the legend of the barren city a glimmer of hope. 9 Heaven star-picking hand, final form, formless form. He stepped forward and instantly appeared in front of the elder. He gathered all the power in his palm and imprinted it on the elder's energy reserve with a boom. In an instant, lightning descended and completely engulfed the two of them. The figure that fell from the sky crashed onto the ground. Under the lightning, the white-robed figure stood in the air. His frenzied killing intent did not diminish at all. He dashed forward and rushed downwards. With one step, the ground collapsed. The fourth realm cultivator under his feet spat out blood. He was so embarrassed that it was hard to believe. His broken martial bones pierced through his skin. The eyes of the life-knowing destiny, who had turned into a demon, were filled with cruel killing intent. He exerted more force on his feet, and trampled on the last dignity of the fourth realm cultivator. Enough! Outside the divine land, the green-haired man among the 5 fourth realm cultivators could no longer watch. He stepped forward and rushed forward. Behind him, the man in purple narrowed his eyes. Without saying anything, he flashed and disappeared from the spot. Seeing the two of them move, the other 3 fourth realm cultivators looked at each other and followed them. The 5 fourth realm cultivators arrived at the same time. The ground above the divine land shook violently. Countless martial artists were shocked and looked desperate. Bad guys, leave quickly. In the northern Meng royal court, Mingyu, who was dressed in a dragon robe, stood in front of the palace and said anxiously when she saw this disastrous scene, "Kid, leave quickly. Where there's life, there's hope." In the barbarian dynasty, the old barbarian king also walked out. He looked at the sky with a gloomy face and shouted, "Marquis." In the great Xia dynasty palace, the dragon guards also recovered from their shock. They were extremely anxious. "You want to leave?" "Difficult," the green-haired man said coldly. He flipped his palms, and a turbid green light spread. The destructive power continued to spread and shrouded the entire divine land. On the ground, Ningchen looked up and looked coldly at the sky. He was not moved at all. He exerted more force on his feet. With a loud boom, he stomped the gray-robed old man completely into the ground. Since the heavens wanted to destroy the divine land, then let them go to hell together. The divine land is not a place where you can behave atrociously. Just as everyone was in despair, a calm and indifferent voice sounded between heaven and earth. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a cold figure in a green robe walked over slowly from afar. Each step was steady and heavy. Legend, legend. The legend of the divine land swordsman who disappeared for 100 years has reappeared. The king has appeared, and the world is silent. Chapter 980. The flames of war spread across the land of the divine prefecture. The 5 fourth realms came together. Everyone was terrified, and the despair in their hearts reached its peak. Just then, a king walked out slowly from the smoke. His aura was restrained, but he had an indescribable aura of a grandmaster. The top cultivator of the divine prefecture came to the mortal world again. A legend had arrived. The 5 fourth realms in the sky were all stunned. A powerful cultivator. The sword rack landed on the ground. The aura of the 5 ancient swords was faintly discernible. Green and red light shone. Sword sand filled the air. The celestial slayer was powerful. There was also a never-before-seen ancient sword in its scabbard. Only the occasional sword aura made people feel endless pressure. As the swordsman appeared, the thunder in the sky quieted down. It seemed to be shocked by the king's aura. "Where's your sword?" Prince Yan looked over at the young man in plain clothes, and said indifferently, It's useless. The darkness in Ning Chen's eyes faded. He regained his calmness and answered honestly. Prince Yan nodded and said, "It's good that it's useless. An impure sword is useless. Step aside." Yes. Facing the last elder in his life, Ning Chen didn't dare to go against him. He retreated temporarily. In the sky, the 5 fourth realms landed slowly. They looked at the man in green in front of them. Their auras kept increasing. They felt that the swordsman in front of them was unusual. He held his swords in reverse and unsheathed them. In an instant, green and red light filled the sky. A powerful sword aura swept out. It was shocking. Green and red swords. Let me experience your moves. In a casual tone, Prince Yan held his swords with both hands. He stood alone. Gods and demons couldn't pass him. Among the 5, the green-haired man's eyes darkened. He flashed and gathered his palms. One palm could shake the world. The power of a 4th realm cultivator was beyond imagination. Half of the divine prefecture shook. The power of a 4th realm cultivator surpassed the limits of heaven and earth. The mortal world couldn't withstand it. Strong winds blew. In the wind and waves, the king moved his sword. The green sword swung and froze everything within 1,000 miles. Everything froze and the world fell silent. With a boom, the sword and palm collided. The wind and snow surged. The green-haired man felt his aura stagnate. Under the extreme cold, his true chi couldn't flow smoothly. At close range, the king's body was like a flowing shadow. His body moved with his sword, and his red sword cut through the sky. As the sword slashed down, heat waves burned the sky. The green-haired man's expression changed slightly. He wanted to block the attack, but the sword aura trapped his body, making it difficult for him to move. At the moment of crisis, a sturdy man with scales on his arms rushed out from behind. His fist shook the red sword and blocked the sword light. With the help of the scaled race, the green-haired man was able to extricate himself immediately. His entire body glowed with green light as he raised the triple success body. The 2 experts joined forces, each displaying their peerless abilities. Their abnormally powerful cultivation bases were about to suppress the king's sword. In the battle, Prince Yan's expression didn't change at all in the face of 2 powerful figures working together. Green and red danced together, and the sword light shone brightly. 2 swords against 2 strong opponents. The king's body was surrounded by sword aura, impenetrable by 10,000 techniques. His peerless demeanor made people look askance. After exchanging several blows, the king's sword became sharper and sharper. His sword technique was flawless. His defense was impenetrable, and his attacks were as aggressive as fire. Even though the 2 of them worked together, it was still difficult for them to gain the upper hand. You 2 go as well. Outside the battlefield, the purple-robed man looked at the battlefield and said in a serious tone, "Yes." The 2 alien experts nodded. Their figures flashed as they joined the battle. Their sharp claws tore through the air. The 2 eagle experts entered the battle, and the battle immediately became white-hot. The clanging sounds of the sharp blades clashing reverberated between heaven and earth. In the distance, mountains and rivers were affected by the aftershocks, and they shook violently. The 4 experts joined forces, and their fists and palms intersected. It was a terrifying scene that could topple heaven and earth. Around the battlefield, the space shattered, turning into nothingness as the 5 experts clashed. 3 swords equal the heavens, life and death contract. The sword reached its peak, and the king's figure flew out of the battlefield. His 2 swords left his hands and soared into the 9 heavens. In an instant, sand filled the sword rack, and an invisible sword flew out. The wind and sand gathered and condensed into a sword. The king held the sword, and the surrounding heaven and earth instantly froze. The 3 swords hummed together, and a terrifying sword pressure swept out rapidly. Outside the battlefield, the purple-robed man's expression changed slightly. He stepped out and immediately joined the battle. His true yuan was fully activated, and a dazzling purple light soared into the sky, helping the 4 people resist the sword that was about to arrive. In the next moment, an unprecedented power descended from the void. A huge whirlpool was stirred up, and rays of sword light fell from the sky, reversing life and death, slaying immortals and suppressing demons. Ugh, a sword of life and death. The 5 Fourth Realm cultivators groaned in unison and retreated a few steps. After the sword, they were severely injured. Outside the battlefield, Ningchen saw the shocking scene, and his heart was in turmoil. Senior's sword has surpassed the one and only sword? The 5 experts were defeated, and they were all shocked. At this moment, in the sky above the divine lands, powerful auras appeared one after another. 7 cultivators who had surpassed the limits of the mortal realm had joined forces to explore the pure land of the Netherworld King. 12 Fourth Realm cultivators, a shocking lineup. The divine lands could no longer withstand the terrifying pressure. The ground collapsed, rivers flooded, and fire spewed out. Disasters continued. In the battlefield, King Yen looked at the 7 figures descending from the sky and frowned slightly. He did not want to drag the battle any longer, and his figure flashed to the front of the sword rack. With the 5th sword in his hand, he pulled it out and slashed the sky. While everyone was still in shock, the 5th sword that they had never seen before was slowly unsheathed. A dazzling light rose, and the surrounding heaven and earth suddenly became heavy. The gravity increased tenfold, and the 7 Fourth Realm cultivators in the void immediately felt their bodies sink, and they could not stabilize their bodies. I'm warning you for the last time. The Divine Lands is not a place for you to behave atrociously. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword in the king's hand swung. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed. A majestic sword light broke through the night and slashed towards the 7 people in the void. The 7 foreign race cultivators looked serious. They joined forces to block the king's sword. Their vital essence condensed and formed a huge law barrier in front of them. In an instant, the sword light swept past, and an earth-shattering vibration sounded. The law barrier shattered, and it could not block the king's sword. The ultimate sword was limitless. As the sword light flashed, blood splattered. The 7 people were hit by the sword at the same time, and they all retreated a few steps, looking shocked. Powerful swordsman, your sword reminds me of an old friend. Just as the 7 cultivators retreated, a war chariot pulled by a skeleton horse appeared in the sky. A horrifying pressure that had never been seen before in the mortal realm descended. Before the person walked out, the entire divine lands was shaking violently. King. Seeing this, the 12 Fourth Realm cultivators looked serious. They bowed in unison and said respectfully, looking at the skeleton chariot that appeared in the sky, a cold look flashed in King Yan's eyes. He said, "Since you have come to this world, follow the rules. The mortal realm is not a place for you to trample. The 100 tribes are powerful, and the human race is weak. This is the truth. Swordsman, how long can you protect them?" A majestic voice came from the skeleton chariot, and it said calmly, "The human race is not as bad as you think. You can't bear the consequences of being too arrogant," King Yan said coldly. "Oh, is that so?" The skeleton carriage descended from the sky. A middle-aged man in purple scale armor walked out from the flying dust. His aura was majestic, and it was as bottomless as the ocean. It made all living beings feel how insignificant they were. The Purple Scale King, who was known to be the best in defense among the 100 tribes, appeared in the divine lands for the first time. He did not hold back at all, and faced the legendary swordsman of the divine lands. Abyss condensation. With the appearance of the alien king, Prince Yan's expression also turned serious. He clenched his right hand, and in the dark light, a sword of the first seal appeared. The 6th sword appeared, and the battlefield immediately became distorted. All the light was quickly swallowed up, and it was difficult to escape the gravity of the abyss. Looking at the sword in the former's hand, the Purple Scale King's expression turned serious. He didn't waste any more time. His figure flashed, and his fist condensed the power of Vajra. He attacked first. When the fist arrived, the king's sword met it. With a boom, the world was turned upside down. The battle between the 2 kings was even fiercer than before. Every move they made had the power to destroy the world. As they fought, disasters were everywhere in the divine lands. Outside the battle, Ningchen looked at the battle in front of him. His shocked heart gradually calmed down, and he focused on observing the sword. The Netherworld King's Pure Land is indeed a place full of outstanding people. Such a swordsman is definitely a strong cultivator even in my realm. At this moment, clouds gathered in the sky. 2 chariots appeared at the same time. 2 auras that were not inferior to the Purple Scale Kings descended. The situation made people despair again and again. It was a catastrophe comparable to the descent of the Netherworld King. 3 king-level existences had descended upon the divine lands. Each of them had the power to destroy the mortal realm. With the 3 of them appearing at the same time, the divine lands was in danger. In the battle, King Yan's expression turned serious for the first time. He condensed his vital essence on the vital essence sword. And for the first time, he released all of his techniques. The sword aura rushed into the sky, and it was majestic. The top swordsman of the mortal realm displayed his peak sword skills. Everyone was shocked, and a glimmer of hope rose in their hearts. In the void, light flowed from the 2 chariots. 2 figures walked out. They were the kings of the 100 races. They slowly descended, and their eyes were cruel and cold as they looked at the battle. Purple Scale King, do you need our help? The 2 kings asked lightly. In the battle, the Purple Scale King flipped his palm and pushed away the king's sword. He looked serious and said, "If you want to help, then do it." "Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The 2 kings sneered. For the Purple Scale King to say something like that, it seemed that this swordsman was so powerful that even the Purple Scale King, who was known as the best in defense, felt pressured. With the same interests, the 2 kings did not say anything more. They flashed and joined the battle. The 3 kings worked together. Their attacks had the power to destroy the world. In the shaking heaven and earth, King Yan's hand that was holding the sword dripped with blood. It was the first time he was injured in the battle. "How can you blaspheme the king's sword?" The dripping blood dyed the blade red. King Yan's face showed murderous intent for the first time. He flew out and withdrew from the battle. In front of the sword, the king fixed his body. He grasped the sword with his left hand and pulled it out. Kill the Immortal appeared. Heaven and earth shook. On the broken blade, countless sword lights gathered and repaired the broken sword. Abyss Condensation and Kill the Immortal appeared together for the first time. In an instant, the sword pressure became solid. Everything in the world stopped, and the extreme state of the sword descended. Chapter 981. The Divine Prefecture was facing a calamity. The 4 realms descended, and the 3 kings appeared at the same time. They were existences that could destroy the heavens and the earth, plunging everyone into despair. The kings were injured for the first time. They struggled to pull out the celestial sword. Abyss Condensation and Celestial Slaughter were used at the same time. The extreme realm of the sword appeared for the first time. The heavens and the earth trembled, and the stars in the sky swayed. The extreme realm descended, and the entire divine prefecture was shrouded in the aura of the sword. The mountains and rivers disintegrated, unable to bear the power of the extreme realm of the sword. The 3 kings felt it, and their expressions turned serious. The black and white vulture kings condensed their primordial chi. On their claws, black and white light rose, and the power to tear everything overflowed. On the side, the Purple Scale King also urged his primordial chi. Purple light rose, and the unbreakable protection became even more powerful. His purple scale armor shone brilliantly, and the king's aura swept across the land. The 3 kings fought against the legend, and the battle entered a whole new level. Around the 4 of them, light shone, and as their figures intersected, all the laws were destroyed. The king's sword and the celestial sword danced like dragons, cutting through layers of primordial chi and demonic barriers. The legend of Xia, the legend of the divine prefecture's swordsman, won against the 3 kings. The battle had reached its climax. Within the extreme state of the sword, streaks of red lightning flashed past. The tiny lightning bolts were only the size of a pinky finger. However, the terrifying destructive power caused people's hearts to tremble. No one dared to touch them. In the battle, the 3 kings looked very serious. They dodged the streaks of extreme realm blood lightning, and gathered the heavenly path's precepts with their heavy palms and claws. The king's sword met them, and the primordial seal sword once again showed its shocking power. The heavenly path's precepts quickly disappeared, swallowed by the king's sword. The king's sword sealed the moves of the three kings. The celestial sword then slashed out. The ancient sword of slaughter had the power to break through 10,000 techniques. The purple-scaled king swung his fist to shake the celestial sword, but there was a sound that shook the heavens. The king retreated. The scales on his fist actually cracked. Known as the best defense of the 100 tribes, he had the unbreakable protection. However, under the celestial sword, the king's scales were constantly damaged and showed signs of collapse. Seeing this, the black and white vulture kings split up, their sharp claws tearing through the air. Two black and white beams of killing light broke through the air, tearing at the legendary swordsman in the battle. Prince Yin narrowed his eyes and focused for a moment. His figure flashed out and arrived in front of the white vulture king. His sword swallowed the light of the sharp claws and flashed past. At the moment of crisis, the purple-scaled king took a step forward and stood in front of him. He used both his arms to block the immortal sword. With a rumble, the celestial sword slashed down. Tiny bolts of blood-red lightning gathered in the ultimate realm of the sword, aiding the celestial sword as it slashed down the number one defensive king of the 100 tribes. With a muffled groan, blood spurted out. The scales on the purple-scaled king's arm shattered one by one. The immortal sword cut through the unending protection and heavily injured the purple-scaled king. As the sword chi entered his body, blood spurted out from his body. The purple-scaled king took a few steps back. His body was covered in blood, and he looked extremely miserable. "Your Majesty." Outside the battle, the expressions of the 12 Realm 4 cultivators changed drastically as they exclaimed in shock. With one king retreating, the two kings advanced. The black and white vulture kings took advantage of this opportunity and charged forward like lightning. Their claws were indestructible and merciless as they tore at the swordsman's body. With the two kings attacking, the swordsman was enraged. The king's sword and the immortal sword combined to meet the attack. With a rumble, the heavens shook and the earth shook. Among the splashes of blood, the two kings flew back several feet, and were both heavily injured. It was a shocking scene. The three kings joined forces, but they were all stained red and were at a disadvantage. With disbelief, the three kings looked at the swordsman in the battle. Their hearts were in turmoil. Just how powerful was this person? Purple-scaled king, vulture king, it's rare to see you in such a sorry state. At this moment, above the 9 heavens, another powerful aura appeared. The 6 kings appeared and suppressed the 9 states. It was truly terrifying. The 6 kings descended from the sky together. Their domineering aura shook the heavens and the earth. With the 9 kings moving, the heavens and the earth were shocked. Outside the battle, Ning Chen's body trembled, and he looked anxious. No matter how strong the senior was, it was impossible for him to deal with 9 cultivators of this level at the same time. They were too powerful. With the catastrophe of the divine prefecture, the situation was getting more and more dangerous. The 9 kings joined forces and suppressed the border. Outside the 5 regions, Di Mingtian and Mo Luotian walked out and looked at the battle in the distance. The speed at which the kings received the news was beyond their expectations. However, the strength of the swordsman was truly shocking. In the divine prefecture, the 9 kings appeared at the same time. There was no turning back. The powerful king's aura spread out. Everyone prostrated themselves and wailed. Just as everyone was weeping, the clouds in the distance moved. An elegant voice sounded, startling all the kings. "Kings of the divine prefecture, you have crossed the line." As the voice sounded, a white-robed figure walked out from the void. He had a scholarly appearance and did not have any killing intent. He was calm and peaceful. "This is..." Outside the 5 regions, Mo Luotian looked at the newcomer and his expression changed. "Young Master Xiaobai. You know him?" Seeing the change in the expression of the person beside him, Di Mingtian frowned and asked. "Yes." Mo Luotian nodded and said in a low voice, "More than 200 years ago, this person was defeated by me. After that battle, he disappeared completely and there was no news about him." "In that case, this person should not be feared," Di Mingtian said lightly. Emo Luotian looked at the white-robed man in the divine prefecture with a serious expression. This person is different. Perhaps he did not use his full strength in the battle back then. Young Master Xiaobai, who had disappeared for more than 200 years, appeared for the first time in the battle of the divine prefecture. The 9 kings looked at the unfamiliar cultivator, who had appeared without warning. They were serious and did not dare to be careless. He dared to appear in such a situation. If he was not a lunatic, he was a true cultivator. Sorry I'm late. Young Master Xiaobai said apologetically as he looked at the king of the Great Xia dynasty who was blocking the kings alone. You're not late. Prince Yin turned around and looked at the person who had come. He replied calmly. Is that lord not here yet? Master asked me to come first. He will be here soon. Young Master Xiaobai replied. King Yin nodded and looked back at the 9 kings of the foreign tribes. Although these people were strong, the real trouble had yet to come. In the ancient times, the heavenly demons who had wreaked havoc in the human world were far more powerful than these kings of the foreign tribes. In the Red Phoenix Galaxy, in the fog of the galaxy, a vague and terrifying aura was slowly awakening. It was so shocking that it was beyond imagination and made people shudder. Above the kings, the true cultivators of the heavenly demon realm, the aura kept rising. The peerless cultivators of the 100 tribes woke up from their deep slumber and returned to the human world after countless years. In the battle above the divine prefecture, King Yin and young Master Xiaobai felt the shocking aura from the distant galaxy. Their expressions turned serious. It was finally here. At this moment, golden clouds gathered above the void. The aura that was indescribably powerful was awakening. It surpassed everything and was unparalleled. Welcome, King of Scales. Seeing this, the 9 kings bowed and said respectfully. The King of Scales had appeared. He was the true strongest cultivator of the foreign tribes. The kings bowed and did not dare to cross him. Rise. In the clouds, a majestic voice said calmly. Thank you, King of Scales. The 9 kings acknowledged the order. In front of the 9 kings, King Yin and young Master Xiaobai looked at the clouds in the sky. Their expressions became more serious. The King of Scales was in trouble. The pure land of the Netherworld King. I didn't expect it to be so filthy. It seems like the Netherworld King spent so much effort to create a pure land, but in the end he still failed. Humans are ultimately a race with filthy hearts. The Netherworld King's choice was wrong from the very beginning. Within the auspicious cloud, the voice of the Scaled Emperor rang out once more. Below, the 9 kings stood respectfully. They looked at the divine prefecture with disgust. Humans did not deserve to live in this pure land. King of Scales, you foreign tribes don't have to worry about the humans' right and wrong. At this moment, in the distance, an old man with a walking stick appeared. Beside the old man, a young girl with bright eyes and white teeth was sitting in a wheelchair. Together, they walked toward the battle. Seeing the old man, young Master Xiaobai in white cupped his fists and bowed. He said respectfully, Master. The old man nodded. He looked at the sword-wielding king and said in a hoarse voice, Thank you for your hard work. King Yin nodded slightly. Without saying anything, he walked out of the battle. Senior. Outside the battle, Ningchen looked at the approaching figure and asked in confusion, Who are these people? Young Master Xiaobai. King Yin replied calmly. He looked at the old man and continued, As for that lord, he's not someone you can come into contact with yet. You can leave the rest to him. Ningchen was shocked. To be addressed so respectfully by his senior, he must be terrifying in terms of both power and seniority. Was there such a powerful cultivator in the human world? Why didn't a single fourth realm cultivator appear when the demon palace was in chaos? While he was lost in thought, the old man stared at the rolling clouds in the sky. A trace of exhaustion flashed across his aged face. He said, Scaled Emperor, do you want to make a move? Although my old bones haven't exercised for many years, it shouldn't be a problem for me to kill all these kings under your command. Most powerful cultivator of the human race, are you threatening me? In the clouds, the King of Scales said with a hint of anger. It's not a threat. The choice is in your hands. Now that the 100 tribes have appeared, the Scaled tribe is not the only royal tribe. If we lose more than 10 kings here, I'm sure the other tribes will be happy to see it happen, the old man said in a hoarse voice. Within the cloud, the emperor of the Scaled clan was silent. After a long while he said coldly, "This time, I'll give you face and give you a piece of advice. The human race is weak. You can't protect them all by yourself. Retreat." At his command, the 9 kings' figures flashed and gradually faded away. Behind them, the 12 Fourth Realm cultivators moved as well. They took the corpses of the dead Fourth Realm cultivators and disappeared together. The catastrophe was temporarily averted. In the Divine Land, the earth shook for a long time. Ningchen looked at the devastated earth and clenched his fists. "From today onwards, you will learn the sword from me again." King Yin glanced at the young man beside him and said calmly, "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."